What is up guys, it's your boy Solheim here, back with another World of Warcraft video for the War Within, and today we are doing a big guide for professions in the War Within. Up until this point I have made individual videos on every single profession, and this will kind of be a compilation of all of those videos put into one, and also including a couple of specific builds that you can do with this as well, like for example profession combinations, why they are important, which we'll be going through at the end of this video. We'll also be talking about setting up the perfect farming character in the War Within as well. So first of all, we are covering every single profession, both gathering and crafting in the War Within, and then we are going over how to combine these professions and how to build characters using these professions. So hopefully after watching this video you will know absolutely everything you want to know about professions in the War Within. Now this is going to be a long video, so there will be timestamps down below, and if YouTube does the job correctly and I do my job correctly, and we have some teamwork here, then the timeline of the video should display those chapters, so you can easily just navigate yourself on a timeline of the video to whatever you are interested in. If you want to check out Alchemy, for example, you can check out this timestamp right here, and yeah, just check out the timeline, check the chapters, and skip to whatever profession you want to know about, or if you just want to know about the farming character or the profession combinations, check that out as well towards the end of the video. So once again, gonna be a long video, and also if you are planning to level fast, or you want to have more help with leveling and more profession help as well, like literally check out Zygor. I have recently been partnered with Zygor myself. I have played with the add-on, and it's super amazing. It helps you make gold, it helps you with professions, it helps you level fast, it helps you with transmog. There's so many things this add-on is doing, it is great. In addition to that, it's super simple to use, and yeah, check it out, the link will be down below. And I am a partner with Zygor now, so if you every single time you purchase something clicking my link, I also get a kickback. So you are directly supporting me and getting a very good add-on at the same time. Either way, that's a long intro for a long video, so hopefully you enjoy the video. Let's take a look at how to make gold with Inscription, and I'm just gonna say this. Inscription is, for the most part, very similar to how it was in Dragonflight, but there's one big change. There are a couple of small ones as well, but there's one really big one that I just want to get into right away, and that has to do with Dark Moon cards. Now, I just finished up skilling the last couple of skill points here, so I'm going to unlock this spec as well, and yeah, I'm just going to unlock this really fast with the careful carvings, but going over to archival editions. When you are a scribe, you will no longer be crafting Darkmoon cards. As you can see, there's no craft for Darkmoon cards here. That being said, there are a couple of things you can make, for example, through transcribing. You can transcribe certain cards, so transcribe Ascension. You can use other cards to transcribe them to Ascension cards or evolution cards. Here you can do radiance cards, here you can do symbiosis cards, and here you can do vivacity cards, but you can only turn other cards into this type of card. And you can also do Dark Moon sigils, so you can learn how to enhance your items through a crafting reagent, giving you a portion of a Dark Moon card power, but you're no longer crafting cards. So where do the cards come from? Well, they can still be fished up, so fishing can still give you cards by finding floating wreckages, but scribes can loot them. Being a scribe, you can loot Darkmoon cards from mobs in the open world, and having played the beta myself, I can confirm they drop from certain mobs in the open world. Don't know about all of them, but at least some of them. They can drop in dungeons and delves, so open world content and even instance content in the War Within, and you can also spec into looting them more often. So here you can first of all gain more skill whenever you are doing anything that has to do with Darkmoon cards, so making the sigil for example, and transcribing cards as well. And over here you can get even more skills whenever making these sigils, and you can then focus on radiance, you can focus on symbiosis, vivacity, or ascension. And whenever you put in 15 knowledge points into any one of these, so like whichever one you want, you will get this, increase your ability to find Darkmoon cards by 50%. So 50% here, 50% here as well, 50% here as well, and a final 50% here as well. That is going to be 200% increased chance to find Dark Moon cards. So simply being a scribe, you can loot Dark Moon cards pretty much anywhere, and you can spec into finding them even more often. That's like the one big change for Inscription moving from Dragonflight into the War Within that is worth mentioning just super early. Apart from that, when it comes to how to make gold with Inscription, you have very many different ways to make gold. You can actually make gold through literally milling herbs by speccing into getting the highest skill, or like the highest rank whenever milling, and also speccing into ingenuity and concentration whenever you're milling. You can make a gold by turning the pigments that you just milled into inks as well, and getting the highest quality ink every single time, or getting as close as possible to the highest quality ink. And then you can spec into, for example, multicraft or resourcefulness to increase your yield and to reduce the cost of crafting these inks. Then you have reagents like the Greenwood and the Boundless Cipher, which are used in a bunch of crafts, especially for Inscription, but by many other professions as well. Then we have weapons that you can also make. They are soulbound though. Actually, they're not. These are BOE. You can also spec into other ones, but these are BOE. So these you can sell on the auction house. And I mean, they're not going to be super good, but you can sell them on the auction house either way. And they are pretty cheap to make. You can also do some combat stats here, so you can make some optional reagents that you can then sell on the auction house, like literally sell them on the auction house, and you can get these to quality 3 as well. You can make profession equipment, and you can make treatises. So we only have one learned so far, but if I scroll down all the way here, we have treatises for every single profession. That means that you can make so much gold just by speccing into and learning these, and then crafting these for other people through crafting orders. There's so many people, like everyone wants to have this. Everyone's gonna have 2 professions, they need 2 of these per week, and in Dragonflight we usually pay the 100 gold commissions, so that is 200 gold per person every single week, and it just depends on if your people are doing them public or private, but you can make a lot of gold from this, just by fulfilling people's crafting orders. They will give you the materials, you craft the thing for them. It is super fast, super simple, and you can even do it through both public, private, and even patron. So patron orders as well. As you can see here, patron order, Algari Trice on Blacksmithing, 74 gold commission, and you also get a crystallized augment rune at the same time, and you have Artisans Consortium payout. Over here as well, Artisans Acuity and a payout, also 55 gold, 79 gold here. So literally learning how to make those will just make you way more gold all the time through crafting orders. It's not going to make you super rich, but it will add up over time. And apart from that, you can also, if you just scroll down further, you have competitors craft. You can make those. If I click on this one, for example, you have BOE trinkets. Now these, I think you have to pay for honor points, right? 7,500 honor points, which I believe you can start stacking that up right now, and then you can learn that recipe, and you can sell BOE trinkets with 558 item level, and then you have profession equipments and even more missives for profession stats. So you have this one, for example, with perception, being able to guarantee certain stats on profession equipment, profession accessories, and profession tools. So that is a quick overview of all of the crafts that you're gonna have access to. Let's talk about how to spend your knowledge points when it comes to Inscription. So first of all, the first talent tree we have here, or the first specialization tree we have, is called Pursuit of Knowledge, and this is going to be a very good secondary tree to have, no matter how you make gold. It will basically just benefit you when it comes to crafting anything with Inscription. It will give you, for example here, you will get +3 ingenuity, +3 resourcefulness, and +3 multicraft per point spent. This is an absolute banger of a specialization tree to go for, and then you can specialize further into getting more ingenuity on the left side. Down the middle you have even more resourcefulness, and on the right side you have even more multicraft. So you will just get way more of those 3 stats whenever you go for this one. Now that's going to be a very good secondary, but it's for the most part not going to be your primary. It depends a little bit on what you're going for, but it's going to be a very good secondary for pretty much everyone. Now, Rune of Perfection, or Pursuit of Perfection, master the art of milling and crafting reagents like inks and ciphers. In the middle, you will get plus skill. On the left side, you will get plus skill as well when it comes to ciphers, so you see craft higher quality ciphers. And down here, you will get higher quality pigments, so whenever you mill, you will get higher quality pigments. And on the right side, you will get higher quality inks. When it comes to me, I'm gonna have one inscription character specifically focused on this specialization, because as you can see, this will cost 120 knowledge points to max out. So I want to go for milling first, and then I want to go for inks, and then I want to go for ciphers. And the reason is that when you do milling, you have to get milling done first. You can split this up and have one milling character, then one ink character, then one cipher character as well. But now we are getting to the point where you're gonna end up having 10 inscriptions or 10 scribes. I'm only gonna have 3. So I actually DC'd. The servers might be down. Give me 1 second. Alright, we're back and the beta is saved. So what I was saying was that you might want to have one character for milling, one for making inks, and then one for making stuff with the inks, but that's just going to be way too many characters, and for me I want to have one focused on this specialization tree in general. So we're going to focus on getting 120 knowledge points over here as soon as possible. So we go over to milling first, so right here 30 points into milling, then 30 points into inks, and then 30 points over here into ciphers. Now obviously we max this one out first, so we max this one out, and then we go for milling, then we go for inks, and then we go for the ciphers. The reasoning for that is you need to do mills first, get high quality there, and then you use those high quality pigments to make even higher quality inks, and then you use that high quality ink to make high quality reagents like greenwood and ciphers, which then, as I just said, they require inks. The higher quality you have on the crafting materials you have, the higher quality you can get on the crafted item you are crafting. So you want to focus on milling first, and the thing is, if you're milling, you don't have to turn them into ink instantly. So I'm going to make them into, I'm going to mill the herbs for pigments, and I'm going to keep those pigments, even if I have to mail them away or keep them in the mailbox or something. I'm going to keep those pigments until I max out ink, and then turn them into ink. And if that's profitable, I can sell the ink as it is, and if not, we can then wait and turn the ink into these items, the ciphers, to make higher quality ciphers. And as you can see, whenever you are crafting, like for example on milling, you can get ingenuity and concentration procs. Whenever you're making inks, you also have multicraft, and whenever you're making ciphers, you also have multicraft. That means after maxing out this specialization tree, you also want to go into pursuit of knowledge, and the most important ones to go for here is going to be the middle one for ingenuity, resourcefulness, and multicraft. And then you also want to get even more resourcefulness down the middle, and you also want to get even more multicraft on the right side, and lastly you might also want to get even more ingenuity to get more concentration back whenever you spend concentration. So in total, that's going to be 240 knowledge points. That's going to take you a long while to max out, but it's going to be a super good character, and the first 120 points, they will be somewhat fast. Like I can say 120 points based on all the treasures we have, the first time crafts we have, the weekly quests we have, and also crafting orders. I will be surprised if 120 knowledge points is not doable in the first 2 to 3 weeks. I will be surprised. 2 to 3 weeks for 120 knowledge points, and then you can start making the highest quality like materials and sell those. So once again, I'm going to focus on pursuit of perfection, then go into pursuit of knowledge, and have one character based on that. Now, another way to go when it comes to making gold with Inscription is going to be careful carvings. Now for this one, you're going to be specializing into crafting in new weapons and profession equipment. Now in my personal experience here, the weapon part is usually not that profitable, but it could be different in the War Within, but usually for me, profession equipment is way better. At least in Dragonflight, that was absolutely ridiculously good. Either way, you can spec into the first one, getting more skill whenever crafting these items. Then on the left side, you can then focus into weapons. So right here, you will learn how to make staves and offhand weapons, and then you can focus even more into either one of them. So here you have staves, and here you have offhands, or torches as they're called. On the right side you can go for profession equipment, so over here you will learn how to craft silver tongue's quill, for example, and then you can focus more on scribe's quills. You can also focus on alchemist's mixing rods, or a cooking pin, or a chef's rolling pin, so you can learn even more recipes and make that as well. So for me, if I was going for this, which this time around I don't think I am, but if I was, I would go for profession equipment, and I would also focus on scribe's quill and alchemist mixing rod. These two are usually very profitable, especially the mixing rods, especially if you can get that one and make it with multicraft. And whenever you're making that rod, if we go down to that rod right now, so profession equipment, we make this rod, it gives you 18 Castle alchemy skill. And if you use a optional reagent, you can use either a, I think you can still get one with multicraft as well. Yeah, so we have multicraft right here, plus 5 recipe difficulty. If you're able to make it with this one, and guarantee the highest quality possible, at the moment I can only make quality 3, but that's also because I haven't put any knowledge points in. If I, for example, put in some knowledge points right now, let's just max this out to try to make it at a higher quality, and see if we can get see if we can use our concentration points or concentration to actually get this at the highest quality we can. Alchemist mixing rod. So right here, we can now make the alchemy mixing rod, and we, that's the wrong one. I maxed out the quill, didn't I? I did not max out the quill. Okay, so you don't actually learn the recipe from that specialization at the moment, even though I thought you did. You only get the recipe for the quill, but whenever you do this, you learn how to make that mixing rod even better, but you still have to get the recipe, and the recipe is from a delve, for now on the beta. That might change before the launch, but if not, as you can see, I just spent all the knowledge points that I can, and we still can't make it at the highest quality. That being said, we don't have the best profession tool, or even any profession accessories, which would then also give me more skill points. So TLDR, you want to be able to make this at the highest quality you can, to get the highest item level you can, and then you also want to be able to guarantee that with multicraft as well. Now, you will definitely have to spend your concentration for that when you're able to make it at the highest quality, to guarantee with multicraft, so you will have to spend your concentration. But when you make that and sell it to alchemists, they will pay you good, because they will make so much profit from it. So being one of the first ones on the server to make that and give that to alchemists, you can make so much gold through private crafting orders. Now, when it comes to careful carvings, you will make most of your gold through crafting orders, so beware of that. You will not make that much gold on the auction house compared to the other specializations here, but you will make a lot of gold on crafting orders. And speaking of crafting orders, we also have this, the archival editions, where you can learn how to make even more stuff. So we have this one, and then focusing on Darkmoon cards, as I just talked about, where you will learn how to make Darkmoon sigils, you will get a higher chance to loot Darkmoon cards, and at the end you will also learn how to transcribe Darkmoon cards as well. Now, some of these Darkmoon cards will be more valuable than the other ones, so being able to transcribe them is actually pretty good. You can turn the worst Darkmoon card into the best one on a RNG basis. So this is just a good way to make even more gold with what you're already doing here. So it just depends on what you want to do. Do you want to make gold through crafting and transcribing around these cards, or do you want to loot them? Because if you only want to use this as a farming character, for example, we have a farming build here, where you only learn this. You don't even have to put any talent points in, you just learn archival editions, then you go down here and learn that as well. Then you put in 15 knowledge points in all of these 4. Just put in 15 knowledge points, because that will give you 200% increased chance to find Darkmoon cards. 50% from every single tree multiplied by 4. And in order to get all 4, you also have to max this one out, so just keep that in mind. Now, on the other side of archival editions, you will then get more skill points whenever you're crafting the other crafts, let's just call it that. You, for example, have contracts, you have missives, and you have Vantus runes. Now, all of these will be very good to craft, and especially missives and contracts, they will give you access to a lot more things that you can craft with Inscription, which is very good for example, if we scroll up to professional stats, there's so many missives to make here, and the missives can be sold directly on the auction house or applied whenever you're crafting gear. Contracts as well can be sold directly on the auction house, and people will want these and they will pay a hefty amount if you're able to craft these at the highest quality, because people need to min-max their reputations, right? So these are going to be good. These are going to be really good when it comes to making gold, and especially getting them at quality 3. So spend your concentration to get them at quality 3 as soon as possible and then sell those on the auction house. And I just talked about crafting orders earlier. A lot of crafting orders will be missives, as you can see right here. There's a bunch of missives that will just give you another avenue of gold making if you spec it that way, to learn as many missives as possible, which you learn directly here, and you specialize into crafting them. So you will have the access of crafting even more missives, which will make you more gold and get you more knowledge points as well from these patron crafting orders, which are basically NPC crafting orders. Now, another thing is the, if we scroll down, the treatises on different professions. Now, the thing is, these are learned whenever doing treatise crafting. So you start out with having this one, the Allegory treatise on Inscription, because that gives you 1 skill point for Inscription. Now, whenever you do this, you have a chance to learn another treatise. So I just learned Tailoring, and whenever I do this right now, I will have another chance to learn another treatise. In this case, we just learned Blacksmithing, so we're gonna make Blacksmithing as well, create that one, and now we have another chance to learn another one. And in this case, we did not learn one this time, so every single, actually we learned Alchemy. So every single time that you make one of them, you have a chance to learn one more, and so far it seems to be 100% as well. So you just, every time you make one, you learn another one. That being said, you have to make them, and actually we didn't learn one this time. So you have a huge chance, a semi-big chance, you have a chance to learn another one every single time. So you really want to focus on making crafting orders for the one that you will need to make, or you can just burn gold as well. Like, crafting them requires both shadow ink and boundless ciphers, so you either burn those recipes, or not recipes, but you burn those materials, or you fully fill crafting orders for other people, because for yourself you can only have 2 professions anyway. So for me, only Inscription plus Enchanting would be viable right now, and it's the only ones that I can use. The other ones are bound on pickup, they're soulbound, and they're pretty useless to me. Now, when it comes to me personally, the only way I'm really going to use Inscription myself for making gold is through Pursuit of Perfection and Pursuit of Knowledge, to do what I talked about 10 minutes ago, where we are milling higher quality herbs into higher quality pigments, turning those pigments into higher quality inks, and then turning that higher quality ink into higher quality crafting reagents. And if selling quality 3 ink by itself gives me profit, I'm gonna do that as well. This is a really easy way to make a lot of gold with Inscription, and it's also very scalable, and you can just make so much gold with very little work, because all you have to do is, for example, let's just say I'm making profit by milling this. I will then start here, create all, mill everything, go AFK. And as long as this is profitable, I'm literally making gold right now. And then if this isn't profitable, if making this right here would be profitable, I would be doing the same. Just click create all, go AFK, make gold. Just sell everything on the auction house. So if the ink by itself gives me profit, I'm just gonna sell the ink, and if I have to turn the ink into boundless cipher to make a profit, I'm gonna do that as well. It just gives you 3 different ways to make profit, and one of them is pretty much always going to be profitable. And in Dragonflight, making, for example, inks by itself made me so much gold by selling that ink to other people with Inscription as well, because while I am going for this specialization right here, This is a boring specialization. It's a really good one, but it's a boring one. Careful carvings is a lot more fun, and archival editions as well is a lot more fun. Making ink is boring, milling is boring, making crafting reagents is boring. People don't want to do the boring stuff, but that's what makes gold. And yeah, if you have a second account, for example, it's just such an easy way to make tens of thousands of gold per hour, while pressing one button every 10 minutes. It is really nice. In Dragonflight, once again I'm using Dragonflight as an example here, I made 100,000 gold per hour on my second account while I was farming on my main account. It is just so nice. So yeah, I'm gonna go for Pursuit of Knowledge Perfection. And after I've maxed this one out, which is once again 120 knowledge points, I will then go into Pursuit of Knowledge for another 120 knowledge points. So it's a pretty big build, and it will take you weeks, maybe even months to fully max out, but either way, that's my plan. So let me know your plans with Inscription in the comments down below. I can't wait to hear about them. I do think Inscription is a really good profession to have, and there are a lot of different ways to make gold. Once again, this is the one method I will use when it comes to crafting, but you also have the addition of Inscription now being a farming profession as well, by looting Darkmoon cards. So I'm gonna have that, like for example my tailor will also be a scribe now, to be able to loot both cloth and Darkmoon cards whenever I'm farming for humanoids, and my skinning character will now be a skinning character and a scribe, to also have the chance to get Darkmoon cards whenever I'm farming beasts. So Inscription just went from being only crafting to being crafting plus farming. That's pretty interesting. And I'm just gonna say it right now, Alchemy is going to be an absolutely ridiculously good gold making profession. It has always been one of my favorites, and based on the beta testing so far, it's looking to be the same in the War Within as well. Now, if you used Alchemy in Dragonflight, it's a lot of the same, but also kind of different. So you will kind of understand the profession by having played Dragonflight, but some of the elements have changed a little bit. That being said, first of all, before we talk about the profession and the knowledge points and everything, I want to say thank you so much for the support on my The War Within content here on YouTube. It really means a lot to me that I'm able to help you guys, and you do like value my opinions on gold making and the professions, and I am just here showing my point of view based on the testing that I've done, and I'm hoping to be helpful in some way, shape or form. And so far I just once again want to say thank you so much. The feedback on the videos means a lot, the likes on the videos really means a lot, so if you're enjoying the content, please feel free to also leave your feedback in the comments. Let me know if there's anything I can improve, or if you're just enjoying the videos as well. Like, those comments really means a lot to me, and any constructive feedback as well, I really do appreciate it. Now, I also want to say one more thank you to everyone who's picked up my the War Within Goldmaking Guide as well, which the support on this has been ridiculously good. Once again, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, if you want to know more about the guide, well, information is down below in the video description, but a quick TLDR is, we are talking about professions, everything you want to know, where to spend your knowledge points, and I even talk about how to spend your concentration and your ingenuity as well, and I'm deep diving into every single profession and how to make gold. Now, the guide is not only about professions, we're also talking about gold farms. I have a section about investments coming up soon, which I have a video about as well, and when you buy the guide, you also get access to a gold making community, where I give you guys early access to videos, exclusive videos, and even more detailed gold making info. It's basically a place where we can gather to make gold kind of behind the scenes, or like not super public, and share everything we know in a close community to help each other make absolutely millions, and it's going to be great. Like, we had this in the Dragonflight expansion as well, and we made ridiculous amounts of gold by finding the best farms out there, the best crafts to do there, and there were a couple of exploits as well. Like, there were so many ways to make gold that we found super early, and yeah, it's going to be good. And if you want to be a part of it, once again, the link will be down below, and you can also get it for half price by using the code Solheim. Plus, when you buy that guide, you also get access to the Dragonflight Goldmaking Guide for free. So, you get 2 guides for the price of 1, and that one is half price. It's a deal of a lifetime. If you want to check it out, the link will be down below, and if you do get it, thank you so much. Now, let's talk about alchemy. Once again, one of my favorite professions in World of Warcraft, pretty much any expansion out there, and the War Within is looking like it's going to be no different. Now, one of the things that I personally really like about alchemy is how versatile it is when it comes to the ways you can make gold. Like, first of all, you have experiments. Alchemy is such a boring profession at the start because you barely have any recipes, and in order to unlock these recipes, they are done on a cooldown basis, where there's a little bit of a RNG element in there, which is always kind of fun, can be really frustrating as well, but it also just means that the sooner you start your alchemist, the more profits you can potentially make even faster, because some of these experiments do have a daily cooldown, or in some cases 8 hours cooldown. Some cases only 2 as well. It just depends on the proc you get or the backlash you get when you craft. So they will have a cooldown, and then every time you craft this, you have a chance to uncover a recipe. Sometimes you don't, and sometimes you trigger the cooldown. Now, that's not it though, that's not everything. Like, for alchemy, you also have the option to make flasks and potions, directly benefiting from people running endgame content like dungeons, raids, even world PvP, open world stuff, PvP as well. Like, people are using potions and flasks all the time, and you will make profit from that. So if you're playing on an active server, the more people are doing stuff on your server, the better, even though many of these things can even be sold on the global auction house now, which is great. So alchemy, you can make gold in many ways, and I just talked about selling potions and flasks to people. You can also sell crafting materials, like you can craft certain items that are then further used in more crafts. So you have, for example, you use herbs to make something called a harmonious horticulture, which we're going to talk more about later in this video. So you use certain crafting reagents to make another crafting reagent and sell it to other people. So you're both making actual flasks, actual potions, and you're making crafting reagents. Now, in addition to that, you can also make passive gold over time through transmutations. Now, that's going to be a little bit different in the War Within compared to pretty much every expansion out there, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the thaumaturgy knowledge point tree of this video. So with that being said, let's take a look at some of the knowledge specializations for alchemy, and where to put your points and how they work. Let's start this off with potent potions. Let's just go through the easy ones first. So potent potions only has 2 trees, and that seems a little bit weird, but also Blizzard has stated this looks like it's going to be what we have at launch. They might rework it later, but they have said they're happy with what it looks like for now and what it actually does. And this will literally just help you make better potions of higher quality by giving you plus skill from the primary tree, and then you get plus 3 multicraft and even more multicraft as well throughout the last one. So it's the same thing from Dragonflight, where you had access to making better potions, and then you have bulk production literally giving you just more potions per craft through the multicraft proc. So if you want to make gold by making potions in the War Within, this is definitely going to be the talent tree to go for, and it's a super easy one to go for as well. Only requires 55 knowledge points, and then you're done. Now, on the other hand, you have the flask version of the tree as well, which is a little bit different, and I was expecting potions to also have, for example, the profession files to be potions too, but for flasks you have the same thing, the first one giving you skill when crafting flasks, and the second one is a bulk production giving you multicraft. Now on the right side you have something called profession files, giving you more skill when making flasks as well, and also whenever you craft files you gain file spillover. File spillover grants 18 resourcefulness for subsequent craft within 5 minutes, stacking up to 5 times, basically giving you more materials back for whenever you craft. And then you also get more multicraft, a more stackable file spillover, so you can now get 10 instead of 5 stacks, more skill while crafting files, which is once again great, and then more multicraft. And at the end here, the effectiveness of spillover is increased by 100%. So you start by having 5 stacks, then you get 10, and then you double the effects, giving you 36 instead of 18, for a total of 360 resourcefulness. Now, to put this into perspective, when you craft right now, if I go to potions for example, on resourcefulness I have 120. That is about 5%. So when you get 360, that is about 15% resourcefulness when you're crafting flasks. About 15%, which that's pretty insane. I mean, based on this, actually, resourcefulness seems to work differently for flasks and potions, and resourcefulness right here, I have 45, and it gives me 2. So, yeah, about between 15 and 18%, if I do my math correctly here, because 1% is about 20. And we get 360, so that should be 18% resourcefulness, and yeah, you will just save a lot more materials while you're crafting, giving you materials back when crafting flasks, which is absolutely great. If you're crafting flasks, this is definitely the professional specialization to go for, and you want to max out everything. That's going to be 80 knowledge points. Now, in addition to that, whether you go for flasks or potions, like if you go for flasks, you want to max out the flask spec, and if you go for potions, you want to max that one out, right? Now, after you have done that, you can also go into Alchemical Mastery to get even more skill. This one has 50 ranks, giving you 1 skill per knowledge point spent, and also gives you more skill bonuses as well, and also resourcefulness plus multicraft bonuses throughout this talent tree. And that affects all of your alchemy crafts, like the skill and the resourcefulness and the multicraft you get from this talent tree affects everything. So for flasks, you would go for flasks first, then alchemical mastery. For potions, you would go for potions first and then alchemical mastery. And the thing is, after that, you can also focus on flasks or potions of a certain herb. So if the potion or the flask that you are making gives you the most profit when you're using Arathor's Spear, then you focus on this to increase your skill even further on crafts using that herb. So using a potion, like let's just say Phial of Enhanced Ambidexterity, like this one right here. This one, let's just say it's going to be really good. This one, drink to increase your crafting speed and deftness by 5 to 15% based on quality, right? Let's just say that's going to be insane for making gold. You then want to focus on either Orbinid or Lure Drop, or even both, to double dip. So you want to focus on either one of these when it comes to which lore to spec into. So you would then go for Lure Drop lore, for example, or Orbinid lore. So either one of these two to increase the skill whenever using that herb. Now you will also get, like you will get skills, but you will also get resourcefulness, ingenuity, and just way too many benefits. And you may now sometimes recover flasks as a result from experimenting with Orbinid. So you can get flask whenever you are experimenting with the herb that you have maxed out the lore with, and right here when you learn the lore, increases the chance to discover recipes that use this herb. If all of the recipes are known, instead you gain +1 to maximum potion yield when experimenting with Orbinid as well, so you start getting more stuff back when experimenting, which could make experimenting a good way to get various flasks and potions just from experimenting while you're hunting for recipes. Now that's just an added bonus though, but you really want to max out your primary talent tree or specialization tree, then go to Alchemical Mastery, max this one out, and then max out one of the herbs, whichever one is most profitable for you. So you just have to look at the recipes and try to sell some of them and see which ones sell for the most profit and the ones with the highest sell rate. Always consider the sell rate whenever you are focusing on that. Now for Alchemical Mastery, you will also learn how to craft something called a Harmonious Horticulture, and for this, if we just go up to Harmonious Horticulture, that's another way to make gold with alchemy, where you're crafting this. It has a recipe difficulty of 575, and I have 633 right now, but that will take you weeks to get, and you want to be able to craft this at quality 3, so you want to get a guaranteed quality 2 as soon as possible, and then get a profession tool and profession accessories to increase your skill even further as much as you can, and then use your concentration points to guarantee a quality 3. Also, you can use quality 3 materials, because the higher quality materials you use, the more skill points you get as well. And this one is used further by a lot of other professions to craft their items, so you want to make a lot of gold by crafting this if you're focusing on that part of alchemy, which you definitely want to do. There's a lot of gold to be made by making other crafting reagents, so this is a really valid way to make gold with alchemy. Just setting up an alchemist, putting 15 knowledge points into alchemical mastery as soon as possible, and the thing is, this one also uses lure drop, orbinids, and blessing blossoms, so if you don't get enough skill points by only speccing into alchemical mastery, you can also go into lure drop, orbinid, and blessing blossom. They will all give you various benefits when crafting. So as you can see, you get a lot of skill points while you're crafting with this herb to pretty much everything. Now this could get changed before the expansion comes out, but as you can read here, it says you only get +1 skill to potions, flasks, and file recipes which use the blessing blossom, but when I go to harmonious horticulture, I still get the benefits here as well, by having 633 or 100 plus 533, and if we go to a potion that requires the same thing, so we have for example orbinids here, we have 637, because we also have the Arathor Spear lore, and for the silent one we have 637 as well, so I only have a couple more skill points in potions, which means that it also currently carries over to harmonious horticulture. They all carry over, which might be an oversight, in which case we'll see if that's still there at launch, and if it is, you definitely want to put your knowledge points into here as well to increase your skill even further. But at least max out 50 knowledge points in alchemical mastery, and then start crafting harmonious horticulture. If you want to make gold by crafting this, you probably want to have accessories and tools with multi-craft as well to increase the yield you get whenever crafting quality 3, especially if you are using your concentration to guarantee a higher craft. You want to use multicraft tools and accessories when that happens. Having multicraft procs on your rank 3 craft or quality 3 craft, that's going to be insane. So focus on multicraft tools and the multicraft accessories. Now the last specialization for alchemy that we haven't really talked about is going to be thaumaturgy. This is basically transmutations, but it's called something else now, and over here you can focus on putting 55 knowledge points into thaumaturgy first, giving you more skill points to every type of thaumaturgy you do. After that you can focus on one of them, so you have mercurial, you then have volatile, you then have ominous, and you also have gleaming transmutagen. I hope I say that correctly. And then you have transmutations, so you can choose whichever one you want to focus on. This one, for example, if you go to transmutations, you will empower your philosopher's stone, increasing the maximum number of transmutation charges you can accrue by 2. Then you get plus skill, and further improve the stone, increasing the frequency in which you can perform transmutations, plus 3 skill, and at the end you will now increase the maximum charges by 5. So looking at my Gleaming Transmutagen, for example, or Gleaming Chaos, we have 8 charges available. You start out with 1. So you start out with very few, then you get more based on your talent point spent or knowledge point spent, and you also recharge the charges faster. So if you ask me, I would learn this first, and then as soon as possible, I would learn a subspec. So you put in 10 knowledge points and learn a subspec. Go for transmutation ASAP to increase the charges you have. After that, you also want to learn Gleaming Glory, which allows you to turn the rarest transmutagen into impressive gemstones, highly coveted by prestigious jewelcrafters, so Gleaming Transmutagens. So you put 10 knowledge points into thaumaturgy right here to learn a subspec. You then put 30 knowledge points into transmutations to increase the the frequency and the charges you have. So like you have more charges and you recharge them faster. That's 40 knowledge points. Now you have gleaming transmutations for another 20. Now we have 60 knowledge points spent, and you can now start making epic gems. And you can do gleaming chaos. So for example, we have gleaming chaos, 8 charges available, and you have gleaming glory, turning gleaming transmutations into blasphemite. Now I also just want to show you what these chaoses give. You can convert gleaming transmutations into an assortment of random materials, and this is something you will obtain by being an alchemist and doing transmutations. So when you do, for example, you can do this one, and if I do this right now, we will then turn mercurial and volatile transmutations into ominous transmutations, and we get way more of them. So we had 6 plus 6 equals 17. Now you can also do the regular craft called thaumaturgy, attempt to perform a miracle with 20 materials of your choosing. So over here you probably want to choose the one that costs the least on the auction house, especially when it comes to the green ones, but let's in this case use Blessing Blossom, which I probably would not recommend you use when the expansion comes out, because it's looking like Blessing Blossom will be the most expensive one, but I'm just going to use it now anyway. So when doing thaumaturgy, you can do this as much as you want. You will get gleaming transmutations as a byproduct, and the same thing with volatile transmutations, and just a random type of transmutations, right? You will get them as a byproduct, and I just want to show you that, as you can see, we only get 1 at the moment, and we only get 1 now as well, so 1, 4, 1, 4, and 1. On the first one, we got 14 volatiles, and we also got 23 gleaming. And that is because when you max out this talent tree, the thaumaturgy talent tree, your first act of thaumaturgy every single day yields a significant amount of extra transmutations, making your daily craft even more valuable to you, making this kind of a pseudo daily activity you want to do, or a way to make even more gold on a daily basis by giving you more transmutations. And you don't even have to use these to make the other type of, you don't even have to use ominous to make volatiles. You get the volatiles as a byproduct from regular thaumaturgy, and then you can also use those in, for example, mercurial transmutations, where you turn mercurial transmutations into reagents. So showing you what that could look like, we have one craft available right here, and we turned this into a lot of other stuff. We turned this into a ley line residue for Arathor's spears, and we got some volatile transmutations back, ominous back, and gleaming back, and even some leathers. Now going over to gleaming chaos, we can still do this as well, but they do all have the same cooldown. So we're now down to available crafts 5 out of 8, and when you do gleaming chaos, you get better materials, higher quality materials, so you definitely want to get to the point of doing gleaming chaos for every single cooldown as soon as you can. But at the start, the mercurial, ominous, and volatile transmutations might also be really worth doing to make some gold on a daily basis from transmutations. So even though we have transmutations now, they work the same way. You loot transmutations from doing thaumaturgy, and you do thaumaturgy to learn more recipes. Like when I used lure drop, we can learn how to do different transmutations by doing this. That's a lot of like transmute words. We have transmute, transmutagens. There's so many different words right now to keep in mind, but you can sometimes learn brand new recipes when you do thaumaturgy. Like right now, we also learned how to do an ominous transmutation as well. So let's do one of those to see what we get from the ominous one. So from this, it's the first one of the day once again, so we got 22 gleaming, 6 volatile, 4 orbinids, and 20 mercurial. So when it comes to your first act per day giving you more materials, that is the first act of any of them. So you can do, for example, 1 ominous, 1 mercurial, 1 gleaming chaos, and so on as well. The transmuting system with all the new names we have, it seems very complicated, but I just want to say it's a lot simpler than it sounds like. And once again, you have the same types of transmutations as we had in the past. They are just called something else. You can even use, for example, your transmutagens to make herbs. So using mercurial transmutagens and volatiles, you can get mercurial herbs, giving you an assortment of herbs which are comprised primarily of mercurial transmutagens. So you can turn your different types of transmutagens into herbs and stones and volatile weaving, even giving you some cloth as well, or different types of reagents, so you don't even have to only get herbs. You can get any type of reagent that you want from a daily or sometimes 8 per day, and they recharge kind of weird, but it's a way to make gold on a cooldown basis, either on a daily basis, bi-daily basis, or in some cases you can log in every 3 days and do order for craft in 3 days, and then log out, and every 3 days, let's just put a number on this, every 3 days you log in, you make 3000 gold, and you log back out. It's a really good way to set up an alt gold making army to just do transmutes. So if you're doing that, you really want to once again spec into both thaumaturgy, transmutations, and the gleaming transmutagens. If I had to choose some path myself, I would go for this one for 10 knowledge points. I would then max out transmutations. I would then probably max out thaumaturgy to be able to get this one. The first act of thaumaturgy giving even more transmutagens. That is super important and good to have. And then go for gleaming transmutagens and then start maxing these out as well. Either way, this is a huge knowledge point tree, so you will need a lot of knowledge points anyway, and building up and making the perfect transmute character will take time, but you can start making gold really early. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, 24-minute video talking about alchemy. I really like alchemy, and I can't wait to make gold with alchemy in the War Within. I have so many alchemists ready to go. We have one for potions, we have one for flasks, and I even have one only for crafting reagents. Now, one thing I haven't talked about in this video is also the ability of making, if we go down to other reagents, maybe not other reagents, we can make this one, but we can also make different optional reagents. So we have a couple of optional reagents for alchemy. One is called a petal powder. When crafting, multicraft yields 25% more when crafting consumables, and you also have a bubbling microbloom culture, increasing resourcefulness by a massive amount, 225 to be exact, and this one only requires 4 microblooms to make, which is arguably going to be the cheapest herb in the War Within. So these, as you can see, they can be sold on the auction house, and they only have a recipe difficulty of 430. That being said, I have put in every knowledge point that I can, and I don't have that yet. That being said, I don't have a tool, and I'm lacking 2 accessories. So if I had the best tool in the game plus 2 accessories, I might be able to push that or get close, and then you can alternatively use your concentration to get there as well, and then you can make these and sell them on the auction house at the highest quality possible, and I definitely think this one at least will be worth making, just because of how cheap it is to make. And the recipe itself is learned from having 5 skill in alchemy, but I do believe it's one of those that you have to learn randomly. And for this, we once again have 4 different paths to take, and I kind of want to talk about all of them. So first of all, let's do a quick overview on what they are. Threads of Devotion will be the way to go when it comes to crafting gear, and you can unlock a bunch of recipes when it comes to Threads of Devotion. The first part gives you plus skill whenever you craft any type of armor, and then you can choose to either go into this one, which is hands, feet and heads, and even back pieces. You can go down in the middle, which gives you access to chest and legs pieces, and then on the right side we have shoulders, wrists and belts. Now, this specialization talent tree is going to be really good for unlocking different recipes. Like, as you can see, you can unlock a recipe on all of these, like on the, you don't even have to put any knowledge points into this tree, even though you really want to if you want to maximize things, but you can learn the recipe right here, learn to craft, and the same thing here as well, learn to craft. This will first of all give you access to more artisan security in the War Within, which is basically the brand new material you can exchange for stuff, and you will also get access to more knowledge points that you can then further put into different trees over here. So this is going to be the way to go when it comes to crafting gear. when you're crafting gear, much of your profit will come from being able to guarantee gear crafts at the highest quality possible, and your profit will come from crafting orders. As you can see, when it comes to crafting gear like these right here, they're all bound on pickup. They're 602 item level, and your profit will be coming from guaranteeing this at the highest item level you can, aka 606. Now, even now, after putting in all of the knowledge points, I am missing a profession tool which would guarantee this, but I'm only 3 skill points away, and I can use my concentration to then guarantee this. And you also want to put on some reagents right here to guarantee certain stats, and that will make it even more difficult. Like some of them, they add a difficulty to crafting this recipe, so the more skill you have, the better, and early on you will definitely need to use your concentration to get this to the highest quality that you can. Now, the thing about concentration is that you need to be able to guarantee quality 4 in order to use your concentration to get quality 5, so you can't just skip from quality 1 to quality 5, so you still need to put in a significant amount of knowledge points and get your profession tools in order to be able to craft this at a really high rank. Now, like I just said, all of this will be based on crafting epic items that are bound on pickup, so your profitability comes from crafting orders, and will therefore be, you will have to pay a lot of attention to crafting orders and announce your crafts in trade chat as well. You can do public craft orders. We have a new thing called patron craft orders. As you can see here, you can craft, for example, the concentrated cord right here. You will get a 69 gold commission, and you will get a box. Now, this one box contains a consortium payout and even more artisan security. And you also have personal crafting orders as well. So the public ones, you really want to scout for the high commission crafting orders, and for the personal ones, you can once again address the craft you can do in trade chat or even world chat as well, and tell people which quality you can guarantee. Apart from that, next specialization, from dawn until dusk. If you have any alt characters you want to make gold with on a passive basis, this is going to be the cooldown crafting specialization for you. So you basically have Dawnweave and Duskweave, and over here in Dawnweave Tailoring, Duskweave Tailoring, you choose one to spec into. It's the same thing as Dragonflight, and when you spec into one, you will first of all learn to craft it, and you can also learn how to find certain bolts, like bolts or scraps of Dawnweave from humanoids around, and how to craft a Dawnweave bolt. Now, that's going to be a cooldown craft, so going over here to bolts, for example, we have Dawnweave and Duskweave, and you will start out with 8 available craft. Now, the more specialization points you put in here, the higher skill you'll be able to make. Now, even now, I have 471 skill, and I have put in, I have maxed out every single thing that I can here, and I'm still not guaranteeing quality 3. This means you will want to spend your specialization points here to guarantee quality 3, and if it's your alt anyway, you can pretty much spend your concentrations every single day to at least get 4 quality 3 items, maybe 3, it depends on how much skill you have, but once again, I'm lacking the profession tool right here. Now, when it comes to the specialization, you can learn how to increase the amount of available crafts that you have. Like, we start out with 8 and I have 30 right now, and you will reduce the cooldown, which means you can make more profit, faster, and more often. So over here, once again, going back here, speccing this one out, you will get more skill in Dawnweave in this specialization and learn how to reduce the cooldown, decreasing how quickly you exhaust the magic used to craft Dawnweave bolts. And then you gain multi-craft as well when crafting this, reducing or getting more skill, reducing the skill, and then multi-craft, and reducing the cooldown one more time. So once again, for your alt army characters, you want to pick one to go into first, like for example Dawnweave, and then after maxing out Dawnweave, you then want to go into Duskweave and max that out as well. For quality fabric, you will learn how to craft and specialize into spell threads, or bolts, unraveling, and embroideries. So as you can see here, you get +1 skill whenever you're crafting specialty items and various reagents. On this one, you will get +1 skill when crafting crafting various threads or unraveling cloth as well into various threads. And then we have this one gaining +1 skill whenever you're crafting spell threads, and on this one you will gain +1 skill whenever you're completing the best crafts when it comes to optional threads. So over here you're focusing on, once again, threads, spell threads, unraveling, and specialty items / reagents. So this one is just going to give you a lot more skill and guaranteeing a higher craft, and you will unlock various bonuses throughout the like getting plus skill plus multi-craft. It's going to be the way to go when it comes to polishing cloth, spell threads, and reagents. You're focusing on that part of the game. Now for textile treasures, this is first of all going to be the way to go when it comes to looting cloth. Like, first of all, the main talent here gives you +1% up to +30, and you also get various bonuses throughout this one, allowing you to loot bolts, and +100% amount of cloth looted from humanoids. Now you will also get this one giving you more multi-craft, more resourcefulness, and also +3 ingenuity, giving you more ingenuity. So ingenuity, multi-craft, and resourcefulness will be helpful across the entire profession, meaning that pretty much no matter what you go for, you want to use textile treasures to boost your craft. This goes for threads of devotion, from dawn until dusk, or even quality fabric. You still want to have textile treasures to boost your tailoring crafts in general, from multi-crafting, resourcefulness, or ingenuity. And even though I've talked about this before, ingenuity is a brand new kind of resource, or a new stat that we have, which will sometimes refund your concentration. It's basically inspiration, but for concentration, so when this procs, you will then get 50% of your concentration back. Alright, now let me show you a couple of examples of specialization points or builds that I would go for. So tailoring specialization 1 is going to be this one. This shows an example build for cooldown alt, and I've divided this into 3 separate categories, where red is the most important because first of all that's where you learn how to do the cooldown craft, so you have to have this one. If you don't have the red tree, then you can't even learn to do the cooldown craft. So red is going to be the most important. Now you might not want to max both of them out, but I would just spend all of my knowledge points in the red tree before going into anything else. Now yellow is going to be the third one, and green is going to be the second one. So red, green, yellow. So going into the green talent tree here, for example, you will get plus resourcefulness, multi-craft, and ingenuity whenever you're doing these crafts. And from the yellow one, you might be able to get that plus skill. That's kind of why I put this as the third one, because we still don't know if that one will affect the specialty crafts. But as of right now on the beta, based on my testing, it does. So that might get changed at some point, but for now, you could spec into yellow to get more skill points whenever doing these crafts, as they count as specialty items. But either way, red plus green is going to be very, very important here. So you learn how to do the cooldown craft, you will do them faster, they will recharge faster, and you get multi-craft, proccing more of them, resourcefulness, saving you gold, and ingenuity, giving you more resourcefulness to be able to spend to guarantee quality 3. Now, next spec, we have this one right here, which is going to be focused on spell threads, and reagents, and bolts, and pretty much everything except crafting armor. So once again, going over to tailoring, we can go over to exactly what crafts we have access to. So this one counts as pretty much doing bolt crafting, all of the different bolt crafting, unraveling as well, everything that you can see here that isn't the gear. Scrolling down to finishing reagents, we have the preserving embroidery thread, we have weaver cloth embroidery, we have bright polishing cloth, gritty polishing cloth, and going down here we have a Algari weaver line as well, and yeah, spell threads, embroidery bags. We even have the severed satchel, for example. This one is really good, and you need to have this one before you start doing unraveling, or get it ASAP, like as soon as possible. Get that bag, because this will increase the yield of unraveling by 1, which is really important. And once again, we have the spell threads, so everything that isn't crafting gear you will want to go for this specialization for, and this will just help you craft them at a higher quality by giving you plus skill, and giving you once again multi-craft, resourcefulness, and ingenuity. Now, one more spec that I haven't really made a graphical picture for is going to be crafting gear, which I talked about earlier. You really just want to max out the Threads of Devotion talent tree and make a choice of what you want to spec into. So go either to the left or to the right or down the middle as soon as possible and just max that out to be able to get the quality you want. And after that you can go into textile treasures to get plus skill, and multicraft might not be that important whenever you're crafting gear because you can't really proc 2 anyway. Like if you go over here and you try to craft some gear, multicraft won't be a thing, but ingenuity, concentration and resourcefulness are still a thing, so you can still go into textile treasures, and you might not need to max this one out. You can put in 15 points to learn the second subspecialization, so you can learn all of the subspecs and just ignore the multicraft one. So go to the left for ingenuity and go down right here for resourcefulness as well whenever you're crafting armor. So make a choice of left, right or down middle, and then after making that choice go to textile treasures and go to the left and go down to the middle over here as well, maximizing your profits from those crafts. Now, we have another spec that I want to show you guys, and that's going to be tailoring cloth farming. This is going to be really important if you're farming gold with tailoring, and this is the spec to go for. It's super simple. You want to put in 60 knowledge points into tailoring to maximize your gold farming from tailoring. So the one on the right will be able, it will increase your loot, like your cloth farming, by 100%. When you spec in on the right. Now you will also learn to find the bolts, so you will learn to find the bolts of weaver cloth and 100% more cloth while you're farming. Now on the other hand, on the left, you also want to go on the left because that way you will learn how to find scraps of duskweave from humanoids whenever you go to duskweave, and on dawnweave you will learn how to find scraps of dawnweave from humanoids around Castle Gar, so you will learn how to find more stuff, which is going to be really important, and these scraps can then be turned into dawnweave and duskweave. Now the thing is, for that one you don't have to put any knowledge points into dawnweave or duskweave, but you have to learn the subspecialization. And going away from this and opening tailoring in the game, for example, if you go to dawn until dusk, in order to unlock the second subspec, you have to max it out. So you have to put in 30 points here to be able to loot both, but you only have to put in not even 1 point, but learn this to learn your first one, so you can start finding scraps of one of them really early. Now the other one might require some additional work, getting some more knowledge points, because once again you can literally put 30 points right here to increase the amount of cloth you find, and then from dusk until dawn you don't have to put in any knowledge points, like you literally just learn it, which is free. Once you reach a certain skill of tailoring, then you learn this, you will then be able to learn a subspec right away, and then if you go for dawnweave for example, you can learn how to find scraps of dawnweave without putting in a single knowledge point in the specialization, but in order to also find duskweave, you will then have to put in 30 points, maxing out this tree to learn the final subspec. So tailoring is going to be really important to find cloth and to maximize gold from gold farms, and also, I want to say this, based on my beta testing so far, only tailors will be able to find cloth. Now, this might be a bug on the beta, it might be intentional, I don't know, but once again, my goldmaking guide, the War Within Goldmaking Guide, we have found several really good cloth farms, and I have done these cloth farms on a tailor and a non-tailor. Doing it for half an hour on a tailor, I find about 50 to 60 weaver cloth on a tailor. On a non-tailor, I get 0. Like 50 to 60 on a tailor, and 0 on a non-tailor. So far, based on my testing on the beta, only tailors will be able to find cloth. It's going to be the shortest profession goldmaking video, because leatherworking, like so far, because tailoring and everything else we have talked so much about, leatherworking is maybe the most copy and paste profession from Dragonflight to the War Within. So if you play Dragonflight, a lot of these elements will be similar to you, and even these specialization points will also be very similar to you. Like we have learned leather, luxurious leathers, concrete kitten, chitin, whatever, and then we have flawless for it. And I'm going to talk about all of these, which ones I'm going to use and how to use them to make gold. The essence though is that you have one for leather right here, one for mail, and one for various crafts, and one that is just a good secondary to pick, no matter what you're going for. When it comes to making gold with leatherworking, you have a couple different ways to make gold. Number one is reagents, and this is going to be the biggest change from Dragonflight to the War Within, is the importance of these reagents. You will use, for example, the carapace backed hide, and a crystalline or 5 crystalline powder, which is found from, for example, herbalism, mining, and various other materials, or like various other professions. You will find these, and they are used in other professions, so they will usually be farmed. As you can see, a fine magical powder made from the crystallized fragments of a crystalline herb or ore, so herbalism and mining is going to be important there, and then you turn that into a hide. These hides are going to be way more important now than ever, and you need to have leatherworking to make these hides, where you turn this hide right here into a different type of hide. You then have, for example, the armor banding as well, where you can turn a sunless carapace hide and a gloom kitten, and also hit this farm kitten, into a chitin armor branding. So you have a lot of different types of reagents that you can make in leatherworking, which are then further used in leatherworking crafts, like for example here, where you need a gloom fathom hide, writhing hide. If you scroll down here, you have way more hides as well, and you just use those crafting reagents further in both leatherworking and even other professions. Apart from reagents though, we also have consumables such as the drums. They are still making a return. We have the dual layered armor kits as well, and we have leather armor. We then have mail armor, we have Arathi patterns, so for example the blessed weapon grip. This is an optional crafting reagent, which is pretty good to have. It can increase your second stat, for example, the highest secondary stat that you have. We have writhing armor banding, another crafting reagent to double the effect of your other Nerubian embellished item, positive and negative, so you will double everything that has to give you. So if you have a secondary Nerubian polishing item or like embellished item, you can just double the benefits of it. We have different bestial patterns, and we have profession equipments as well to make gold with. And scrolling down to the unlearned part here, we have more Arathi patterns, we have more Nerubian patterns, more bestial patterns. You can also spend your honor points to unlock BOE green 558 item level equipment, PvP items to sell directly on the auction house, which can also be a really good way to make gold, by the way, to people that are directly PvPing, so you can make both leather and mail. And then we have my personal unlearned profession equipment, and they will be a really good way to make gold. At the start of any new expansion, there's a huge rush for setting up your professions to make the most gold possible, and when it comes to setting up professions, you want to have the best equipment possible. So for example, if you have a herbalist and you want to set that up, you need to find and cooperate with a leatherworker that can make this for you, the stone-bound herbalist pack. And if you have a jewelcrafting, you need to cooperate with a leatherworker to make the earthen jeweler's cover for you, a jewel crafting accessory, and so on, which we're going to talk a little bit more about now that we're getting into the specialization points. So first of all, let's talk about learned leatherworker. Master your leatherworking fundamentals to increase your reagent efficiency, ability to concentrate, general stitchwork, and production process. Now the first one here will give you +3 ingenuity for everything that you craft, and will just give you a lot more benefits when you go through the specialization as well. For example, here you hone your concentration, consuming 2 less concentration, or 2%, when focusing on leatherworking patterns. Over here you now have 3% less, so 2 + 3. Over here you have another 5%, so now we have 10% less concentration spent. And at the last part you now have 15% speed to crafting on leatherworking, 75 ingenuity, and 45 resourcefulness. This is a really good tree to have no matter what you're doing. If you're crafting leather armor, mail armor, profession armor, no matter what your other primary way of making gold is, this is a good way to spend your points after that to just increase the benefits. And on this side, you then have resourcefulness in everything as well, giving you more resourcefulness and making it so your resourcefulness saves you more materials. So even if you're focusing on leatherworking crafts, you still want to have this one for the ingenuity and this one for resourcefulness. On the other side right here, you will now start focusing on consumables and reagents, getting skill points and multicraft when proccing those as well. As you can see here, you get +1 skill per point spent. Here you have multicraft grants up to +25% additional items when crafting consumables. Over here, +25% when crafting reagents, +25% when crafting consumes once again, and +25 when crafting reagents. So maxing this one out gives you +50% reagents from multicraft and +50% consumables from multicraft. Now down here, empower your ingenuity, causing ingenious breakthroughs to refund an additional 1% of the concentration spent, and the more you put in, the more you get back. So you can get way more concentration back, which will help you no matter how you make your gold, especially on equipment crafting though, because there you need to spend your concentration to get the highest skill. For example, professional equipment, I have currently spent every knowledge point that I can, and even now, I am so far away from guaranteeing the highest rank, and I have to spend 600 concentration to get the highest rank of, for example, the Earthen Jeweler's cover. That is more than half of the concentration that I have. That being said, if I proc Ingenuity, I get half of this back, and by speccing into that spec, Learned Leatherworker and down here, we get even more back. And by speccing into this one, we have more Ingenuity, so we have a higher chance to get more concentration back. Okay? So basically, Learned Leatherworker, Waste Not, and Commanding Concentration, they will be 3 very good specialization trees to go for, no matter what you have, because they just benefit leatherworking in general. And on the other side, like on the right here, Industrious Innovations, if you're going for consumables or reagents, you have to have this specialization. That multicraft proc is going to be absolutely insane. Now, over here we have luxurious leathers, and I'm not going to talk about this too much because you're focusing on leather crafts, leather armor, and the more points you put in, the better you get at making leather armor, and the more recipes you unlock. And you can focus on, for example, here you have leather chest armors, here you have hoods, here you have mantles, here you have bracers, and the more you put in, the more recipes you get, and the more skill you get when crafting that as well. Over here we have Concrete Chitin, which is the male equivalent, crafting male armors. If you play Dragonflight, it is a copy and paste of these 2 knowledge points right here, but once again, if you go for luxurious leathers and you want to make your gold by crafting leather armor in the War Within, you want to get the recipes you want from luxurious leathers, and then go back to Learned Leatherworker, and put in 90 knowledge points here as well for these benefits, but your main one will still be luxurious leathers. So leatherworking, leather crafting here, mail crafting here. This one is a good secondary to have no matter what, and also for reagent crafting and consumes. And over here we have something called Flawless Forts. Master the techniques of Castle Guard to craft specialty items beyond that of the standard armor. Over here you can, once again, when you go through leather crafting, armor crafting, you can get more recipes here as well, from Arathi Armorers, Nerubian Nows, Beastly Bulwarks, and even here for the Epic Ensembles, you can learn more recipes in different categories. So for example, if I scroll up here, we have an Arathi patterns. This right here is an Arathi pattern, but it's also a male pattern. So this one you can double dip by both speccing into Arathi crafting and male crafting. And down here we have Nerubians, for example. This one is male. Let's go for a leather one. This one is leather. So this one you double dip by speccing into Nerubian crafting and leather crafting to be able to get the most skill points possible. You also have the bestial patterns. So over there you're just specializing into different types of crafting. Over here you also have something called a spotless stitching. Master the art of making armor kits, reagents, and other consumable goods, gaining +1 skill per point in this subspecialization when crafting armor kits and reagents. So over here you just get way more benefits when crafting reagents, and armor kits. Armor kits are a consumable, so there's a couple of different ways to make gold. If you're going for leather crafting, right here, luxurious leathers, you want to go for luxurious leathers, and then maybe you go for Arathi armors to get the Arathi patterns as well, and Nerubi and even Beastly Bulwarks. But you also want to put knowledge points here, so crafting leather is going to be a little bit complicated, will require a bunch of knowledge points to get it perfect, but yeah, you can basically spec into everything, except concrete chitin when focusing on leather crafting, and vice versa, when focusing on mail crafting, you go concrete chitin first, then maybe flawless forts to pick up Arathi armors, and even Nerubian Naus and the Beastly Bulwarks, and then you go into learn leatherworker to put 90 points over here as well. Now for me, I'm going to focus on the consumable part and the reagent. So I'm going to be making all of these reagents and focusing on making them at the highest quality that I can and make gold by selling these to other people. We're basically turning other crafting reagents into a brand new crafting reagent and then selling that. So for me, I'm going to go through flawless forts, this one right here, +1 skill, into spotless stitching, and then max out spotless stitching. This will give me a lot of benefits, as you can see right here. That will be 60 knowledge points. After that, we go to learned leatherworker, put 30 points here and 30 points here. So for me, that's 120 knowledge points, and now I have pretty much learned everything I need to have to make the best crafting reagents that I can, and the best consumables that I can. In this case, we are focusing once again on the reagent category, and the consumables category, including the armor kits. So we have armor kits as well, that we can make in the consumable category. Like for example here, Defender's armor kits and Stormbound armor kits, that we can also make at the highest quality that we can. And for me, when it comes to crafting consumables and crafting reagents, I will mostly focus on multi-craft. So I'm going to get myself a leatherworking tool and 2 accessories, and I'm going to get those with multi-craft at the highest quality that I can. So at this point, we have highlighted 3 different ways to make gold with leatherworking. Number 1 is focusing on crafting leather armor, number 2 is focusing on crafting mail armor, and number 3 is focusing on crafting reagents and consumables, aka armor kits. Now there's one more way, and that is by crafting profession equipment. Now for that, you want to go down here to the epic ensembles, learn to create only the finest of profession equipment for you and your fellow crafters, gaining +1 skill in the subspec when crafting professional equipment. And going through this, you just get various benefits when crafting professional equipment, and at the final one here, +20 skill, +30 ingenuity, and use 5% less concentration. Now, it is worth noting that when it comes to these professional equipments, you will need to get the recipes for them. That being said, many of them are really easy to get, they just will cost you. So for example, going through here, this one you can learn from Lyrendal, a vendor in Dornegal, and it will cost you 150 artisan security. Over here you have the same one, the same vendor, and the same cost as well, so once again, 150 artisan security. This one right here, it's a new vendor, but it's in the City of Threads. That's in Ashkahet, the latest zone you will find, and you just have to unlock the vendor. It goes super fast, and it's even like a renown wide, or not renown, but a warbound wide unlock. So you unlock it once on one character, and now you're good to go, and it once again costs you 150 artisan security and 1,500 brand new currency called a Kedge, I think it's called, something like that, right? And we have Deep Tracker's Pack. Once again, this one is the same vendor, Kama, in the City of Threads, same thing. Over here, Lyrendal, 150 acuities. Over here, we have, once again, Lyrendal, 150 acuities. And for this one, City of Threads, Kama, same thing, 1,500 Kedge and 150 acuity. And finally, the Herbalist's Pack, Lyrendal, 150 acuity. So as you can see, that is a lot of acuities you will need to have. You need to have 1,200 artisan's acuity just to learn the recipes, and then you need to have enough acuity to make your own tools as well. So you need to have a bunch of artisan's acuity. I'm gonna point that out right now, but either way, you can make a lot of gold by focusing on professional equipments as well, and now you know exactly how to get the recipes for them, and you know where to put your knowledge points for that as well. So that is 4 different ways to make gold with leatherworking that will hopefully help you out in the War Within. Jewelcrafting and a quick overview and some deep dives of the profession itself. So here we go, I'm on my Jewelcrafter on the beta right now, and Jewelcrafting is looking very much similar to what it looked like in the War Within, in Dragonflight. So when it comes to jewelcrafting, you will have a couple of different paths that you can take when it comes to how to make gold, and the first one is going to be through gem cutting. Gem cutting is going to be very simple. You're focusing on crafting gems, and that's pretty much it. You can choose where to go, where you can go for either emeralds, you can go for onyxes, rubies, or even sapphires, and this talent tree right here is very good to go for when it comes to unlocking as many recipes as possible and skilling up easily. When it comes to jewel crafting, at the moment we're stuck on 51 skill, and the only way to skill up, this is before putting in any knowledge points by the way, the only way to skill up is through a daily cooldown or a 20-hour cooldown, giving us one skill every single day for the last 50 skills. Now, you can obviously learn patterns as you put your knowledge points in, and different profession or different specializations will give you access to more or less recipes, and the one with more recipes, like the most of them, is going to be gem cutting, because when you learn, for example, sapphires, you just have to max out this spec right here, and then when you learn this spec, you will then learn a brand new recipe for a masterful sapphire, and down here you have the quick sapphire, and then down here you have the deadly one. So going through this entire talent tree, you will have 12 brand new recipes, many of which will give you skill points even at the current skill that I have, and all of them will give you the first time craft bonus, which is 1 more knowledge points and 5 artisan security. So, gem cutting is super simple. You make gems and you make profit from crafting gems. Now, you can specialize in certain gems to make them more profitable for you and even better as well. As you can see, you get plus skill when crafting, for example, let's just take sapphires. You get plus skill when crafting sapphires, and over here you can focus even more on masterful sapphires, getting plus skill for those as well. And then throughout the crafting tree, you will get more skill and learn how to use finishing reagents to increase the skill on a future gem cut. Now, when you max this one out, you will also reduce the concentration cost by 5% when cutting masterful sapphires, so you can learn how to use your concentration even better when crafting those specific gems and spend less concentration to be able to craft more max rank gems every single day. Now, for those who don't know, concentration is a brand new resource. We have 1,000 of it right now, and this is a resource that you have. It will recharge slowly, and you can use it to guarantee a certain craft. Going over to versatile sapphire, for example, we can only make this one at quality 2. Now, I can also use my concentration right now to guarantee a quality 3, and the difference between a quality 2 and quality 2 is 159 versatility, quality 3 is 176. When it comes to putting gems into your best in slot pieces, especially from raids but even Mythic Plus, you want to have the best gems you can. Now, in this case, even though we're lacking a lot of skill points, we can use 467 concentration to guarantee a quality 3. So clicking here, you will now apply concentration, and I can make this a gem. Now, you can get more skill points by going in the talent tree that I just talked about, gem cutting, which will then reduce the amount of concentration you have to use, because the concentration you have to use depends on how much of a difference there is between the skill you have and the recipe difficulty. Okay, going over to jewelry crafting. Jewelry crafting is a little bit different. Over here you're focusing on crafting finishing reagents or jewelry designs. So you can focus on jewelry designs over here. And over here you will now increase the yield of resourcefulness by 5% when crafting profession accessories. Now, that's only when crafting professional accessories, right? Down here you have rings, so you can learn how to craft a brand new ring as well, which will be another way to skill up your jewel crafting, and you will get more bonuses when crafting rings. Now, on the left side, on the other hand, you will then learn to craft amulets, and you will then focus, you will learn a brand new amulet, for example, and you will learn how to craft amulets even better. So, amulets, rings, and resourcefulness for profession accessories for jewel crafting. Now on this side of things, most of your profits will come from crafting orders, because crafting the best rings and the best amulets, and even the best professional equipment, they will be bound on pickup. Now some of the professional equipment, like the green ones, they are bind when equipped, so they can be sold on the auction house, and even being able to guarantee this one at a quality 5 is going to be really good, and could be a good way to make gold at least early in the expansion. But going down to, for example, making not blasphemite or prisms, but let's go to jewelry. This is one of the amulets you can learn to make. It's bound on pickup, and the higher quality you have here, the more item level this necklace will have, and the more stats it will have as well. So you want to be able to guarantee this at quality 5. You might have to spend your concentration to be able to get it to quality 5, for sure, but if you can get it to quality 5, that is 606 item level, where quality 1 is 593. That being said, as you can see right now, I'm still making quality 3, but the difference between quality 3 and quality 5 are 7 item levels. So this amulet, once again, bind on pickup, but you can make gold from this through crafting orders, personal crafting orders, public crafting orders, and even patron crafting orders. Now the last specialization is really weird but really good at the same time. You have something called shaping. So for shaping, first of all, you will allow you to use Artisan's Authenticity finishing reagents when crafting reagents, and you will gain +1 skill when crafting all reagents per point spent in the regular shaping tree. So for shaping, you're focusing on reagents. Then you can go to the left side, focusing even more on glass-specific reagents, like glass craft for reagents in the glass category. Meanwhile, on the right side, you have stone. So once again, it's reagents, but crafting stone reagents, so whenever you're focusing on the stone part, you can focus more on that as well. And they only require 15 skill points each, so you have a choice to make here. But when you go down, you have something called a gem finding talent tree. So for this one, you will gain +1 skill to crushing per point spent for a total of 40 points. And when you learn this, you have a small chance to receive additional reagents while you're prospecting. And you will just be able to crush faster, crush better, and find even more stuff the more points you put in. So when it comes to prospecting and crushing, you really want to have a jewel crafting character that focuses on this talent tree. Eventually, that's going to be the only way to make profit as well from prospecting and crushing, is to have this talent tree. Now, after maxing out the regular gem finding talent tree, you can also go down to sapphires, and you will now have a chance to acquire a stunning sapphire when prospecting Iron Claw ore. And when you go through this one, you will unlock various different things as well. So for this one, you will have a chance to discover a stunning sapphire when prospecting Null Stone as an extra byproduct. And at the end, you will now have a small chance of finding a second stunning sapphire when you uncover one from prospecting. So over here, you're focusing on Iron Claw ore and prospecting Null Stone. Now, on the other hand over here, you have rubies, which will probably be better than sapphires, but if everyone goes for the ruby spec, then sapphires might be better as well, but rubies are usually better. So this one will give you a chance to acquire a radiant ruby when prospecting Akirite. So this one focused on Iron Claw ore, this one on Akirite, and giving you a ruby. Now, over here, you will have an additional chance to find a radiant ruby when prospecting Null Stone once again, and on the final one you will get a chance, so you will have a small chance to find a second ruby when you find one ruby. For this one, you have the Onyx talent tree, which is once again from Akirite, and it's the same thing as ruby, but for Onyx. And over here you have Emerald, which is Iron Claw ore, so it's the exact same thing as sapphires, but for emeralds. So when it comes to prospecting and / ore crushing, you want to learn shaping, you want to put enough talent points in to be able to go down to gem finding, and then you max out gem finding, and you max out the various different ones down here as well. So shaping has two sides to it. One focused on crafting different crafting reagents with stone and glass, and one focused on crushing. With all of this being said, I do want to talk a little bit about exactly how to spend your points and give you some visual examples on the screen as well. So specialization point number 1 is going to be based on the spec we just talked about, and there are different colors here where you would want to focus on blue when it comes to crafting reagents, because the main talent point here, the middle one, will give you plus skill in any reagent craft. On the left side you have glass, on the right side you have stone. Now, when it comes to having a character only for prospecting and crushing, you want to go down to the green area and max out the green circles as soon as humanly possible to maximize your profits from crushing and prospecting, and this could be a really good way to make gold early in the expansion. I can easily imagine the first person on the server who is able to go down to the green circles here and max this out can just buy out any Ironclaw ore and Acherite on the auction house and probably turn triple profit. Like if you spend 10,000 gold, I would not be surprised if you get 30,000 gold back at the start. So this could be really profitable, but once again it really depends on how knowledge points, like how hard they are to obtain. Can we get 80 knowledge points? Or I guess this one right here requires 130 points, because you have to spend 10 points in the top 3 as well. So you would have to have 130 points to maximize the profits from crushing and prospecting. So it really depends. How quickly can we get those points? Is it going to be doable day 1, first week, second week? Nobody really knows so far. We have been doing some testing on the beta, but we have definitely not broken past 130 points yet. I am sitting on 30 points so far, but then again, that's only from week 1. In addition to that, when it comes to prospecting and crushing specifically, you want to take a look at this right here, the Jeweler's Purse. This one is a 38 slot bag, unique equipped and bind when equipped, and it has a equip effect, increasing the maximum yield of crushed gemstones from Algari crushing by 1. So if you're going to be having a character focused on prospecting and crushing anyway, you want to have this bag on that character to maximize the profit as much as you can, and increasing the yield by 1 is actually pretty massive. This bag is BOE, you need to have tailoring to make it though, but like if you don't have tailoring and I have tailoring, I can make the bag for you, and the bag will also be, once again, tradable on the auction house. It's bound when equipped, so buy this bag or get a friend to make the bag for you before you start trying to make profit from crushing. Okay, specialization number 2 is going to be this one right here, and once again that's just focused on gem cutting, which we talked about a lot in this video, so I'm not going to dive deeper into it, but this one requires a lot of points. As you can see from the build, it has a lot of different points to it, and you really want to make a decision here on which gem you want to make. Do you want to make sapphires? Do you want to make rubies? Do you want to make emeralds? Do you want to make onyx? Try to find out which ones are going to be the most profitable. Check some best in slot lists on Wowhead to find out which gems people need the most, and then focus on those. Basically, you want to focus on the gems with the most profit and the highest sell rates. Now for the last one, we have this one right here, which basically focuses on rings, amulets, and also gives you some resourcefulness while you're crafting as well. It's basically the one we talked about for jewelry crafting. Going back over to the talent tree over here, we can go to view full talent tree, and this one focuses on professional accessories, rings, amulets, and over here you just get plus skill to all jewelry designs, so that one is good to have no matter what. So there you have it. That's basically what jewelcrafting is looking like so far, and it's looking pretty good. You can make gold from crafting rings, amulets, as you can usually as well. You have gems, and I really like the prospecting and the crushing aspect, and the brand new bag that we have, and I like the possibility of being able to make a lot of gold by setting up a prospecting character as soon as possible, and then literally just buying ores on the auction house, prospecting, and getting gold back. That's been a way that I've been making gold pretty much every single expansion, and even recently in Classic as well. In Wrath that was huge, in Cataclysm it was huge, and if it's huge in the War Within as well, that is absolutely lovely. Now, real quick, towards the end of the video, I do want to say that I've recently become a Zygor affiliate, and I've tested out Zygor myself, both in retail and in classic, and I am thoroughly amazed at what this add-on can do, and it's super helpful, super clean, and it's just super easy to use. If you want to check out Zygor for yourself, you can do so through the link down below, and they have even hooked me up with a 20% discount code, which is Solheim TV, and you can use that when you click my link. That is a referral link, so I will also get a nice significant kickback when you purchase Zygor through that link. That will give you access to a really good product, and it will really help me out at the same time. So once again, not only are you getting access to the Zygor guides, you're directly supporting me at the same time, so if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out Zygor. And they are not paying me to talk nice about Zygor here, but I really love this add-on. It is so clean, it looks really good, and I love the fact that they are able to help you in multiple aspects. They have leveling guides, reputation guides, questing guides, achievement guides, transmog guides. Like, they have so many different things baked into one product that you will get access to. So definitely check it out. And yeah, that's basically what I have for you today. I just wanted to talk about jewel crafting in the War Within. Once again, a profession that I'm really hyped about, and I'm hoping to be able to use it a little bit more in the War Within than I did in Dragonflight. The prospecting aspect and the crushing aspect looks very promising. What is up, guys? It's your boy Aswell. I'm here, back with another World of Warcraft video for the War Within. Now, today we're talking about engineering and how to make gold with engineering in the upcoming War Within expansion. If you want to have access to even more gold making stuff, check out my gold making guide through the link down below, where I deep dive even more into every single profession, talk about how to make gold with crafting, farming, and even show you specific gold farms I've found on the beta so far in that guide. And the thing is, when you buy the guide, you can also get access to my Dragonflight Goldmaking Guide for free, and you can buy the guide for 50% off by using the code Solheim. It's a one-time purchase, which means that whenever the guide gets updated, you get those updates sent to you for free directly to your email. So right now, because you get the Dragonflight Goldmaking Guide with the War Within one, you're getting 2 guides for the price of 1, and that one is half price. So, once again, if you want to know more about gold making, everything that I know about gold making will be in that guide, and the Discord server you get access to when you buy the guide. So yeah, it's just a one-stop place to have everything you want to know about gold making in one place, and you directly support me at the same time. Trust me, it's going to be the place to be when it comes to gold making in the War Within. So check it out, the links will be down below. Now let's talk about engineering and how to make gold with engineering in the War Within. Now, engineering is typically not seen as the gold making profession, but in Dragonflight it was absolutely ridiculously good, and I'm here to tell you that the War Within is looking even better. Now, when it comes to the basics of engineering, a lot of things are roughly the same, but a couple of things are different as well. Now let's go through the same things. You're basically using other types of materials, like ores for example, to make crafting reagents that are then further used in engineering in different crafts. Now these are called parts. You can also use certain specialization points to perfect the craft of parts, which we'll get into further in this video, talking about exactly how to make gold and the different paths to take, where you have inventing, devices, and equipment, and you can pick and choose whatever you want. So you can focus on making gold through parts, where you are then focusing on crafting the highest quality parts to sell to other engineers that needs those high quality parts. You also have cogwheels. We have had these for quite a while. They are optional crafting reagents that can be sold directly on the auction house. Now we also have some equipment. We have geared for combat. In this case, you can make blue guns and sell on the auction house, level 80 blues with 558 item level at the max quality you can, and it only has a skill difficulty of 200, so you'll be able to guarantee this at the highest quality pretty early. You can also make goggles for other engineers, all ready for level 71 with 528 item level. You can also sell professional equipment. I only have 2 of them so far, and you can make something called a box of booms on a daily cooldown, which gives you, well, different kinds of explosives inside that box. Like for example, we have one in my inventory right here, the box of booms. Opening this one up, we will get a couple of different boxes or potions. Potion bombs. So we have potion bomb of recovery, potion bomb of power, and Potion Bomb of Speed. And instead of talking about those from here, if we scroll down further, we can see them here, explosives, Potion Bomb of Power. Now, these are basically bomb potions, where you can throw this bomb on your party members and give them a potion-like effect. For the Potion Bomb of Power, for example, you throw a potion bomb, which splashes up to 5 allies caught in the blast with a potion that increases their primary stat by 800 for 30 seconds, as well as enemies caught in the blast suffer 51,000 fire damage, split between them. So it's both a potion and also a bomb at the same time, and they do require that type of potion. So you have tempered potion, right? You need 3 tempered potions, but you get 4 to 5 bombs back, and proccing multicraft you can get even more bombs back as well. Now, these bombs will be used a lot in both raid situations and Mythic Plus situations, because as a raider myself, I can use a potion, and somebody else can throw their bomb at me at the same time, and those effects stack. Now, you can also use them, so you use the potion first, then the potion bomb after. That's going to be up to your group. The thing is though, they have separate cooldowns, so you can use the potion, then you can also use the bomb. So you can basically double dip, meaning that engineers now have a direct way to make a lot of gold steady from selling consumables to people using for raids and Mythic Plus. So you can think of this as making potions, because that's what you're doing. It's just a potion bomb, and you can specialize into crafting these at the highest quality you can, so quality 3, and then you can use multicraft to make even more of them to make more gold. Now, the highlight of engineering this expansion is the Crowd Pummeler 230, a brand new mount that you can make. So you have this one, it's a flying mount, and it's a BOE, like it's not soulbound or anything, so I can make this right now, trade it to you, and I get some gold, or I can put it on the auction house and sell it for gold as well. And this is made through an assortment of parts, and as you can see, all of these crafting reagents, they are also sellable, and you can find these whenever you're pilfering through parts by speccing into the right spec, which we'll get further into later. But as you can see, we have a bunch of devices that we have not learned, and when we go through them like this, you see discovery is through inventing, prototyping, and nodes. A lot of the engineering recipes that you will find, like a lot of the ones that we haven't learned so far, you will get them on an RNG basis through inventing. So you have inventing, for example, where you can sometimes learn new recipes. You can scour through straps, or scour through scraps, there we go, disassemble inventing, and pilfering through parts. And whenever you're going through parts and going through scraps and inventing, you have a chance to get a new recipe. Now in this case, we can go through scouring through scrap and make some of that with the pile of rusted scrap. So we're just going to scour through a couple of them right here, just to get some scraps back in this case. And we're not going to learn anything right now from that, but we're just like scouring to show you what you can get. So sometimes you get some handful of bolts. You can also start getting refurbished Tinker Plain Displacer, but for the most part you get trash. Now sometimes you get some piles back even though you're scouring through piles, and when it comes to learning new recipes, this is where that comes in. We just picked up twice now something called a unrecognizable prototype, and we also got some hastily scrambled or scrolled nodes. You can arrange 15 of these nodes into something comprehensible, aka usually a new recipe, so something new to craft. So you just want to scour through as much as you can and hope to get both this right here, the prototypes, and the notes as well. The Tinker modules you can also sell because they are not soulbound or anything. So yeah, you can just keep doing this, but every time you do it, you are scouring through 5 piles of scrap, and you're basically burning through gold. You're burning through gold here because in order to get to these piles of scrap, you also have to pile through parts, and going through parts, you're directly going through crafting materials. So you can go through bolts, but you can also go through, for example, chaos circuits, you can go through wirings, you can go through all of these things that you can make, which are basically parts. So you can use your ores to make parts, and then you can scour through those parts to then get some, well, let's just scour through some parts, and you can see exactly what you get. So when you scour through parts, you then get some piles of rusted scraps. For the most part, you will get 1, sometimes you will get 2, and sometimes you can proc even more more than 2 as well. So every time you do this, you are burning gold, but you're getting piles of scrap back. You can then use that pile of scrap to learn brand new recipes, and you can also use it through inventions. Now, inventions requires 25 piles of scrap, and if we invent something right now, you can see that we get a lot more from that than scouring through scraps, which is why it's on a cooldown. It's also an epic right here, so you have a chance to learn how to make something new, and even if you don't, like, you get this prototype still. In this case, we learned nothing new directly, but we got a prototype and we got 3 notes, and pretty much every time you do inventions, you will get a prototype and a note, but it has a 24-hour cooldown. I'm just going to reset that cooldown right now to do one more invention to show you a second craft as well, just to show you that you genuinely get a lot more often than you get through scouring through scraps, as you should, because instead of just using 5 piles, you are now using 25, and it has a cooldown. So once again, we got another prototype, and we got piles of scraps back. This is also one of the primary / only ways to skill up engineering past 60 skill. As you can see, I only have 2 ways to skill up right now, and they're both on a cooldown. So for example, inventions are on a 24-hour cooldown, and even the box of booms, that is also on a cooldown. So there we go, 24-hour cooldown there as well. I just wanted to show you that because skilling up engineering will take time, and /or will be expensive. Like, you will have to burn through gold to learn recipes by the scouring through scraps ability, and then you can also buy recipes directly on the auction house, or you can use honor points to make these. So for example, recipe unlearned, 7,500 honor points, you can then start learning the PvP crafted items, which you can also specialize into making at the highest quality you can. Either way, let's go back. When it comes to learning recipes, you now want to use something called a dissemble invention. In this case, we're going to go for this one right here, the unrecognizable prototype, and we're going to start disassembling those and try to learn something. In this case, we didn't get anything, but we got some notes. So we got some notes back right here, and we got some piles. If I can just if I turn off my web camera right now, you can see this chat as well to see exactly what we get. So from that one, we got 9 notes. That is almost an entire, brand new recipe from one invention, and we got 10 piles of scrap back. Going for the second one, doing another invention right here in disassembling, we now get 4 notes and 15 piles, so we get 15 piles back, and it cost us 25 piles to get this one from a daily craft, 7 notes, so you won't get a full recipe for every single time, but you will get pretty much half a recipe, like 9, 4, 7, and 8, and then back to 9 again, and 19 piles on the last one here. Now, when you combine these notes, and that is when you will learn a new recipe. So in this case, rearranging notes into something comprehensible, we now picked this up. Study your notes to choose a new engineering schematic to learn. The selection of possible schematics increases as you specialize in engineering. So studying these notes, you will now have different ones to choose from. Now, sometimes they're going to be the same, but usually they are different. So in this case, we can teach you the schematic for spring-loaded bismuth fabric cutters, or you can go for this one, the heart-seeking tinker, or you can go for this one. Now, when it comes to which one to choose from, you can actually go back to engineering and find the specializations or the brand new recipes and see if any of them will be good for skilling up, and then choose that one. In this case, pretty much none of them are good for skilling up, so just choose whichever one you want, and you just keep doing this until you have all the recipes you can have. So at this point, we have spent about 10 minutes talking about engineering overall, but it is a pretty complicated profession to get into. And when you start out, it will look very boring because you will barely have any recipes, and you will have to keep doing inventions to get those recipes, and the more recipes you have, the more gold you will make. Now let's start talking about specialization points and where to spend them and why, so we can talk more about that as well, and give you some examples of exactly what I'm going to do. Let's start out with inventing. For inventing, you specialize in the sciences of destructive construction to improve your ability to invent new gadgets and your technique with engineering in general. So for the first one, you get +1 skill towards all engineering craft. That is pretty important to note, because that means that no matter which specialization you want to go for, This is a good secondary to have. Like, even if you're crafting equipment, you still want to go for this one to get +1 skill when crafting equipment. And if you're crafting parts, you also want to have this one to get more skill in crafting parts. Even if you're doing device crafting devices, you still want to have this one to get more skill points. Now, on the right side, you then have the scrapper. Gain +3 resourcefulness toward all engineering craft per point spent. So once again, resourcefulness will just help you save the cost of crafting by giving you materials back. So even if you're going for engineered equipment or device crafting, you still want to have scrapper as well to get resourcefulness. And this one is pretty important because you may now sometimes find lost engineering toys from the Dragon Isles when you scour through scraps. Now I do believe that's going to be updated to Castle Gar instead of Dragon Isles for the War Within. But right now in the beta it's telling you Dragon Isles, but you basically get more stuff back from scour through scraps. Over here the maximum scrap yield from most sources is increased by 1, over here another 1 +1 increase, and at the final one you may now sometimes find certain refurbished tinkers from the Dragon Isles when you scour through scraps. Once again, that's supposed to be Castle Gar, not Dragon Isles, because we picked up some Castle Gar tinkers when scouring earlier. These tinkers have been reconfigured with Algari circuitry to be compatible with modern equipment. So on the left side, on the other hand, you have Ingenuity, which is basically just a way to get concentration back whenever you spend concentration on any craft. Now, going halfway through here, you also get this one. Whenever you invent, gain Inventor's Guile, whatever, which increases the multicraft resourcefulness and ingenuity by 150 for 12 hours. This one is pretty important because you want to have this no matter what you play, and that also means that before you start doing a crafting session on your engineer, you want to go for an invention. You want to use the inventability even if you have all the recipes you can because of that buff, and then you want to craft as much as you can for those 12 hours to utilize that buff completely. So maybe instead of crafting every single day, like if you have all the recipes, you're literally just burning gold on the invention ability, min-max the use of that buff, because once again that buff is absolutely insane. 150 resourcefulness and the multicraft by itself should be about 10% multicraft and 10% resourcefulness, maybe closer to 7, so between 7 and 10%, and then ingenuity, if you're using concentration, that is also insane. Now, going down the middle here, you can also focus on parts, gaining +1 skill specifically when creating parts, and then after that you will then go down to either overclocked cogwheels, you can go down to serrated cogwheels or adjustable cogwheels, or even impeccable cogwheels, basically specializing into a certain part of cogwheel to gain more skill in those crafts as well. Now, this one is important. The parts one is important. First of all, if you're crafting parts, you want to go here, but also this. When you pilfer through parts, you now have a chance to recover components used to craft the Crowd Pummeler 230. A lot of those materials can be bought from vendors, and people have been talking about exactly how to get them. This has been a question for the last couple of weeks on the beta as well, like how expensive will this mount be to craft? Well, now when you pilfer through parts, you can start finding all of these recipes, so if you find the most expensive ones, you save a lot of gold. That being said, pilfering through parts, you're also burning gold, so you have to do some mathematical equations there to see if it's actually worth doing when it comes to that. But scouring through parts, you also get a lot more stuff back. So yeah, this was just going to help you make even more gold and give you more advantages through pilfering. So once again, parts, whenever you pilfer through parts, you can get some components back used in crafting that mount. Over here as well allows you to use the finishing reagent, and at the end, crafting parts can now sometimes result in spare scrap. You never know when it might come in handy. This is going to be a really good specialization to go for, and you also gain +10 skill right here when crafting parts, and +60 multicraft when crafting parts. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the specialization later, because this is going to be the one that I'm using on my engineer for gold making. Going over to devices now, you will specialize in the complexities of your own devices to use them with minimal risk to your own well-being, and maximum risk to the well-being of your foes. If you have engineering on your main, for example, example, this is going to be really good to go for, because you will just min-max the ability of using devices. Going through the first one, you get +1 skill to gadgets, gizmos, devices, and other miscellaneous creations per point spent, and going through some stuff, you will now often recover scrap when using your devices. So the more you use your devices, the more scrap you get back, and the more you go through this, the more scrap you will start getting back. And you also increase the yield of resourcefulness by 10% for gadgets, gizmos, and devices, and other miscellaneous craft, and you get more skill points. So this will help you make better scraps, save not scraps, devices, save gold while making devices, and make more devices. So you make better, you save more, and you make more. And then you can also start getting gold back from getting scrap when using your devices as well. So the more you use them, the better. Now after that, you can also go to Tinkers or Explosives. So going to Tinkers first, you can then further specialize on Tinkers. Using Tinkers has a chance to grant scrap. So once again, you get scrap back from using your Tinkers, which makes it really good to have on a character you will play a lot. You now think twice before using your Tinkers, increasing their success chance by 3%, gaining multi-craft so you craft more and craft better, and over here as well, +8 skill. You now glance at your Tinker control panels instead of pressing random buttons, increasing success chance by 5% more, and at the end here you now listen for blah blah blah, gaining 7% increased success chance, and your level of caution is now equivalent to the benefits provided by the recalibrated safety switch component, and no longer need to depend on it for optimal success chance. So basically you have a way bigger success chance when doing Tinkers. On the left side you have Explosives, where using Explosives now has a chance to grant scraps, and you will also get skill, multi-craft, and skill when crafting explosives, crafting more explosives and better explosives as well. Over here, using a suspicious technique, you have a chance to not consume a potion bomb when throwing them. Once again, absolute biz whenever you're using explosions, and at the end here, learn to craft a box of bombs, which allows you to create a box full of random explosives once per day. Now, this one is important. Having a chance not to consume a potion bomb when throwing them. As I just talked about, the potion bombs will be absolutely really good, both for personal use and also for selling, so being able to make these at a higher quality and a higher quantity is going to be really good for gold making, but also really good for personal use, so that's just a really good talent tree to go for, especially, once again, if you have engineering on your main, this one is going to be really good. Now, going over to the final specialization tree that I don't have any points spent in yet, you can focus on engineered equipment, and even though I haven't learned this yet myself, don't think that makes this bad. In reality, this is a really good specialization tree to go for, and you will then get plus skill when crafting equipment of all sorts. That means personal equipment, combat equipment, and also profession equipment. You can then choose to further specialize into either calibrated chaos whenever you're crafting guns and bracers, and then you can focus even more on either guns or bracers to increase your skill when crafting those. Or you can go through inventor's necessities to focus on goggles and the profession equipment, and then you can choose to either go into goggles or profession gear. Now for me, for gold making specifically, profession gear, I'm just gonna say it, is really good. You will learn a lot of brand new recipes and make them at a higher quality here, and going down to profession equipment, we have so many good profession equipments for engineers to make. For example, you have the spring-loaded Accurite fabric cutters. Everyone with tailoring will want to have this, and they will look for the best engineer to make these at the highest quality that they can, and guarantee the best stats on this one as well. So this is a tailoring tool, not an accessory. It's going to be really good, and if you know about gold making in the War Within and how it was in Dragonflight, people are loading up tailors for alt armies. Like when it comes to cooldown crafting, tailoring is really good, and everyone wants to have this on their tailoring alt army. So if you don't have engineering yourself and you have a lot of tailors, you will be looking for a tailor specialized into crafting these, and I'm just gonna say it, this is gonna be really good to make gold. When you're able to make this tool, tailoring tool, at the highest quality you can, like as you can see, it's 490 recipe difficulty to get the highest rank. You will want to make the highest rank, and then you also want to have additional skill points past that as well to be able to use finishing reagents. Now that being said, we have something called concentration in the War Within, so the second I can make quality 4, I can then use my concentration to force it up to quality 5. Now, the more skill points I'm lacking, the more concentration I have to spend. Like right now, I am this far away. I am lacking, let's just see, we need 392. So we are lacking about 60 skill points to be able to guarantee this is quality 4, but I can spend 360 concentration, and now suddenly we guarantee this at quality 4. So getting to quality 4 and then using concentration to get quality 5, really good for gold making. Consider doing this if you have engineering. Consider going down the path of professional equipment. You also have, for example, this one. This is a mining accessory with finesse and plus 11 Algar mining skill, and you get more skill the higher quality you make. Now over here you have this one as well. This is a jewel crafting tool, so jewel crafting really good for gold making, and everyone with jewel crafting will be looking for somebody with engineering to make this tool for them. We also have this one, the miner's headgear, another mining accessory. We have this one right here, engineering tool you can make for yourself, or even other engineers as well. Like for example, on my engineer, I will be going for inventing. I will need somebody with equipment to make me that tool, because I can't make it myself. So I'm going to be looking for somebody to make this tool for me, get the recipe for it, and then also guarantee it at the highest quality they can. We have the Accurate Fishing Friend, that's a fishing tool, and we have the Brainweave Projector. That is another engineering tool or engineering accessory that you can then make for yourself or other engineers as well. Now it is worth noting when it comes to professional equipment, some of these will be directly learned whenever you spec into professional equipment. So if I can just find one that you can learn whenever you spec into it. For example this, the Accurate Fooled Camouflage, that is the engineering tool. You will get that whenever you have engineered equipment with 40 knowledge points in. You will then learn that recipe. Pretty much all the other ones though, they come from tinkering, but you need to have, there's a requirement here, specialization professional gear. So you need to go to specialization, engineered equipment, then go to a talent tree, and you need to go to profession gear. So you need to have learned this, and you can now learn advanced professional equipment from studying scribbled notes. Those are the notes we just talked about, like right here, for example, the comprehensible organized ideas, which come from these notes right here, the hastily scrawled notes, which you get from, for example, once again, the daily invention, scouring through scraps or pilfering through parts. You can then get those notes, and when you have that knowledge, like when you have spec'd into this tree and gone down the professional gear, you can now start getting those recipes from those notes as well. And you will want to do that to get all of them, to be able to make all of them and make the most gold that you can. It is going to be a really good way to make gold. That being said, these tools and these professional equipments, they are soulbound, so you will be making gold from crafting orders, both public, patron and personal. Now, going back to my main engineer and how I will use it for gold making myself, I'm going to focus on the invention part here, and I'm going to focus on crafting parts. So for me, I'm going to go for 40 points spent into inventions, then 40 points spent into parts, and then going to go for scrapper, and then finally ingenuity, to be able to make parts at the highest quality that I can, and make gold from parts. That means that I'm going to be selling parts to other engineers that are not spec'd into the same. For example, if you are spec'd into devices or engineered equipment, you probably want to buy parts from somebody spec'd into making parts, as I can then make better parts, more parts, and I will save more gold while making parts, because the knowledge points that I'm going to be putting in will give me resourcefulness, multicraft, skill points, and even ingenuity when making parts, meaning that I can make better, for example, entropy enhancers. I can make them better. I can proc more multicraft from them. I can also save more gold while making them through resourcefulness, and therefore I'm basically guaranteed to make a profit. And in Dragonflight, focusing on parts made so much gold, it is ridiculous. Now, I might also make a second engineer and focus on professional equipment, but I definitely want to have one focused on parts, and the reasoning why is that when it comes to professional equipment, you need to be online. You want to have that on a character you're actively playing, or you want to actively monitor crafting orders, because the only way to make gold from this will be, well, not the only way, but the main way will be to make the best professional equipment for other people, and they're all bound when equipped, which does mean you directly have to make them through crafting orders. That being said, when it comes to parts, I can log on, I can craft for an hour, send everything to my bank, and just post them on the auction house, and make absolute bank, which means I don't have to scout crafting orders, I don't have to advertise anything, I just craft, put them on the auction house, sell, make gold. It is very easy, very scalable, and it's how I prefer doing things. Now, this turned out to be a pretty long video. I think it is the longest one out of my profession video cover series when it comes to gold making with professions in the War Within, but engineering is pretty much a complicated but also easy profession at the same time, and I wanted to make sure that I covered pretty much everything. One more thing to focus on here is that you can make tools and accessories with the skills or with the stats that you want. If you're focusing on parts like me, the best one to focus on will probably be multicraft to proc more procs whenever you're crafting. So sometimes whenever I'm making entropy enhancers, I can make more of them instead of just making one. So multicraft for parts if you're going down the same route as me, but if you're going for professional equipment, multicraft will not help you out at all. You rather want to focus on either skill points, resourcefulness, or ingenuity, like any one of those. If you're lacking, if you want to spend concentration, for example, and make gold from that, ingenuity might be the one to go for, because that gives you concentration back whenever you get a ingenious breakthrough, whenever you're crafting. So yeah, focus on whichever stat you want to have, and get those tools as soon as possible. Now let's talk about enchanting and how to make gold with enchanting in the War Within. Now, on a surface level, enchanting hasn't really changed that much. As you can see, we still have things like Shatter Essence, we have recrafting, we have crafting different types of reagents, like for example the Harbinger Crest, which might be new, but then again we also have the Concentration Concentrate, which we have basically had in the past, but not concentration, but something else. For inspiration, we have Mirror Powder, a different type of reagent as well that we can make. We have mana oils still, so we have this, and we have the Algari mana oil, for example. We can make rods and wands, we have boot enchantments, bracer enchantments, chest enchantments, and just a lot of different enchantments. And the thing is, when you start out, your crafting list will not look like this. You will have way less enchants than I currently have, and that is because that I am playing on the beta. I have put in every single knowledge point that I can, so we have maxed everything out. And if you go to, for example, we have everlasting enchantments over here, you learn so many recipes from this talent tree, it is absolutely ridiculous. And the same thing goes for ephemerals, enrichments, and equipment as well. You get some recipes from there too. So because I have spent so many knowledge points, we have quite a few recipes already that you probably won't have for quite a while when the War Within comes out. That being said, let's talk about exactly how to make gold with enchanting. Now, when it comes to enchanting, a quick overview is that you will either make gold from making enchants and then selling them. This can be, for example, illusion enchants, it can be regular enchants, which you will want to get the recipes for. So some of them, for example, this one, it's a drop from a certain person in a certain zone. Can also be looted from a treasure, as you can see. It's a drop from Prioress Murprey in the zone of Priory of the Sacred Flame, which is a dungeon, or it can drop from the treasure Challenger's Cache in the Dawnbreaker. So you have two different ways to get this one, and that is a haste enchantment for rings. Permanently enchants a ring with Belledar's Radiance, increasing haste by 265. So some of the actual enchants that we have, this one as well, the recipe World Creatures, as an example. Now, when it comes to making enchants, you want to have the best recipes available. Like, take a look at some of the best in slot lists and look at the enchants they need and make those enchants at the highest quality you can. So even now, even when I have spent all of the knowledge points that I can't even make this enchant at quality 3. That being said, we have a brand new resource called Concentration, so you want to use your concentration as much as you can on the best enchants in the game to get them at the highest quality that you can. Now, that being said, I am only lacking 30 knowledge points or 30 skill points to get it at the highest quality, and as you can see, I'm only using a rank 2 ruined bismuth rod. I can get this one way better, so you get way more skill. So get the best profession tool and the best profession accessories that you can as soon as possible. But that being said, like, still, 480 skill points is a lot for enchanting, and it will take you weeks, maybe even months to get there, so be prepared for that. That being said, when you can start making quality 2, you can spend your concentration to get quality 3, and for enchant specifically, that is super worth doing. That will be a lot of profit for your enchanters, so keep your concentrations, spend them on the best enchants in the game, and you will make absolute bank. Now, apart from enchants, you can also make gold from, for example, if you scroll all the way up, you can make gold from mana oils. You can also make gold from reagents, so you have different ways to make gold right there. With that being said, let's take a look at the different specializations to go for, based on the paths of which you take when it comes to making gold. So the first specialization tree we have to talk about is called Supplementary Shattering. Specialize in shattering the magical essences of Castlegar, gleaning fleeting but increasingly potent crafting bonuses from the magic within. Your studies will also benefit your concentration. Now, I'm not going to read through everything here, but basically this one right here gives you ingenuity, or ingenuity, there we go, which is inspiration but for concentration. So you have a chance whenever you craft based on your ingenuity to get concentration back when you spend it. It's inspiration, but every time it procs, it gives you concentration back. Now on this side, you will have multi-craft. Down here, you have plus, you get 1% more concentration back whenever you get ingenuity procs, right? And then on the left side, you have resourcefulness. And this talent tree right here, or specialization tree, is a very good secondary tree to any way of making gold. If you want to be a enchanter, you go for everlasting enchantments first, you get the recipes you want to have, and then you go to supplementary shattering and get, for example, ingenuity, resourcefulness, and also this one to get more concentration back. But when it comes to enchantments, you don't really care that much about multicraft, right? So for example, whenever you do the enchantment over here, there's no multicraft for regular enchants. That being said, when it comes to mana oils, that's when you want to have multicraft. So returning back here, this one is a secondary knowledge talent point, a specialization tree to pick for any enchanter out there. No matter how you want to make gold with enchanting, this is a really good talent tree to have, or specialization tree to have as a secondary, but it's not gonna be your primary one, but it's a very good secondary one to pick. So with that being said, let's take a look at Designated Enchanter, or Designated Disenchanter. This is going to be a character that pretty much everyone wants to have. this is going to be a character specified into disenchanting items, where you will get more skill points when disenchanting. Going on the left side, you will have Uncommon Utilitarian, giving you more materials back, and higher quality materials when disenchanting greens, and upon learning the final one, like over here, you have a chance to create more Storm Dust when disenchanting Uncommon equipment, and at the end here, your chances of creating additional Storm Dust when disenchanting Uncommon equipments are increased, so you just get more Storm Dust from regular green disenchants. Over here you have the blue one, the rare resourcing, so you get more shards back, right, whenever you disenchant, and on the right side you have epic escalations giving you more crystals. Now for this specialization tree, you can also go two paths. If you have a third character, like let's just say you have a main, and your main has engineering plus tailoring, or engineering plus alchemy, because every single main wants to have alchemy, well, you can send BOEs to a character to disenchant. On a BOE disenchanting character, I would go for the main talent tree right here, designated disenchanter, then go to Uncommon Utilitarian, then rare resourcing. BOE greens and BOE blues are pretty much always going to be worth disenchanting, but for the first couple of months, you will probably never disenchant a rare BOE epic. Like BOE epics, you will sell them on the auction house because they will almost guaranteed be more pricey than those crystals. So for BOE bound on equip items, whenever you're sending those to a disenchanter, focus on the main skill tree, the uncommon skill tree, and the rare skill tree. That being said, if you have a main and you want to have enchanting on your main for whatever reason, now you suddenly have a reason to go down here to epic escalations, because on your main you will run a lot of LFR, Mythic Plus, regular Mythic Dungeons, and even raids, whether that is normal raids, heroic raids, or mythic raids. Now the more of those activities you do, the more epic items you will get, and the more epic items you will get that you no longer need. And whenever you either get the epic item you don't need, or you swap one out that you would like get an upgrade, for example, and you swap out an epic, you can now disenchant that epic and get more crystals. So on a main, go for the epic. On alts, go for rare and uncommon if they're meant for BOE. If you have any alts you're doing like raiding content with or Mythic Plus content with, you can also go for epic escalations to get more crystals back, just giving you more gold for your regular daily content, like your regular gameplay. Now next up we have everlasting enchantments. Over here you're focusing on different types of enchants, so first of all you will get plus skill, and you will then learn various recipes and also specialize even further in certain recipes or certain enchants. So for example on the left side you have earthen enchantments, giving you more skill and also specializing further and learning more recipes in the earthen category. Down the middle path you have Arathor alterations, basically Arathor enchants, where you will get more skill points in Arathor enchants and learn more recipes in the Arathor category. On the right side you have Nerubian enchants, giving you more skill in those, and you will learn more Nerubian enchants. As for exactly which ones to focus on here, it's a little bit difficult to say, because it just depends on what's on different BIS lists out there, like what's going to be the best enchants for raids, what's going to be the best enchants for gathering, for like different types of professions out there, crafting as well. So for example, for weapons though, you have mostly Arathor and earthen, not just mostly, only. So you have earthen enchants for weapons, and you have Arathor enchants for weapons as well. So if you want to focus on weapon enchants, those are going to be the two to focus on. Now on the other hand, for Nerubians, you have ring, bracer, and cloak enchants that you're getting from Nerubians. So if you want to focus on that instead, you can go for Nerubian. It's just going to be a choice you have to make, and once again, I would pay very close attention to best in slot lists, especially on Wowhead when it comes to these enchants. People love to follow those best in slot lists on Wowhead, even if they're wrong, so just follow those lists and make whatever enchants are listed there at the highest quality you can, and then put those on the auction house. Now, after you make a decision of where to go, after you make a decision of where to go and put knowledge points there, and/or when you have maxed out this tree, once again remember that supplementary shattering will be beneficial to everything you're crafting, including enchants. You just don't want to get the multicraft one, because you can't proc multicraft on regular enchants, but you can get ingenuity procs, resourcefulness, and even this one. So there's 90 additional knowledge points to be spent right here as well, that will benefit your enchants. On the last one you have ephemerals, enchantments, and also equipment, where you can focus on enchanting equipment, making equipment, and also enchanting that equipment as well. You can make oils, which is going to be a really great way to make gold in the War Within, and you can learn how to make, for example, the best rods in the game, professional production. Learn how to make the ruined iron claw rod formula, which will then be wanted by every single other enchanter. So going over to that rod, for example, that I currently have, which should be here somewhere, if we just scroll up far enough, we have the rod right here, we have the ruined iron claw rod. This gives you plus 18 Cass Algar's skill for enchanting, and that's gonna be a lot. As you can see, once again, I don't have the skill points to guarantee the highest quality every single time, but that's because I have a very bad item right here. I could get 10 more skill points, plus I don't have any accessories. So when it comes to min-maxing here and maxing out and getting as much skill as possible, you want to have this at the highest quality you can. Now, that being said, even though I can't guarantee this, I can use my concentration, 437, to guarantee this at the highest quality, thereby giving you more skill points and more stats whenever you get this one. As you can see, the highest quality available will now give you 329 stats, and you can even use different crafting reagents here to guarantee which stat you want to have. Do you want to have crafting speed? Do you want to have, for example, ingenuity all the way down here? Or do you want to have resourcefulness? You can decide, and it adds plus 5 difficulty, but then I can guarantee that to make sure you get a rod with the stats you want to have. And being an enchanter, being able to make this, you can charge so much fee when you can make the best rod in the game with guaranteed stats for other people. That being said, a lot of your gold will come from crafting orders, both public ones, patron ones, and personal ones. Now, another added benefit to both everlasting enchantments and ephemerals, enrichments, and equipment is that you will learn so many new formulas, and a lot of the patron orders are based on formulas that you have to find out how to make. So not everyone is going to be able to make all of these enchants. Like, for example, Gleeful Glamour, not everyone is going to have that. You would have to learn that somehow. And the same thing for all of these 4. And all of them can give you a knowledge point. As you can see, they give you artisan acuity and a consortium payout. Opening that payout, you can get a knowledge point for enchanting. So focusing on crafting orders will be really helpful to getting knowledge points to further increase the profitability and the potency of your enchants, whichever way you decide to make gold. So doing a quick little recap here, method number 1 of making gold is being a disenchanter, either focusing on BOEs through uncommon or rare items, or focusing on epic items on your main or on a character you intend to play the game a lot with, doing Mythic Plus dungeons and even raids. Method number 2, making enchants, and method number 3, focusing on pretty much all of this, even though you could make a decision of either going to the left, down the middle, or to the right, so you can make a decision here as well. But basically, this is the various crafts in enchanting, which covers both enchanting equipment, mana oils, reagents, and pretty much everything. And when it comes to both everlasting enchantments and ephemerals, even disenchanting to a certain degree, supplementary shattering will be helpful, and once you have maxed out your primary specialization tree, you then want to use supplementary shattering as exactly that, a supplementary specialization tree, which will help you out make even more gold. One final note here when it comes to ephemerals, enrichments, and equipment is that me personally, if I was going to use this, which I probably am, I would go for down the middle path first to make professional equipment at launch, when everyone wants to get the best rod that they can and the best professional equipment that they can. Because when it comes to, for example, material maestro, making reagents and mana oils, and then specializing even further into mana oils, the raids don't open until 1.5 weeks after launch, or 2 weeks after launch, and then mythic raids open 1 week after that. So you have a lot of time before the rush for reagent, or like the rush for consumables start, where at the start people focus more on skilling up their professions and getting their professional equipment. Meanwhile, after about 2 weeks, suddenly people start wanting those mana oils in bulk. That being said, like, if you spend 30 points here, then 20 points, and further 20 points, that's going to be 70 points spent, which you can pretty much get the first week, and then the second and third week you can then build out your mana oils to make gold there as well. So for me, I would focus on professional equipment while that's hot, and while that is in huge demand, and then swap over to making oils when the raids are open. Either way, that's just how I would use enchanting as a gold making profession. I am definitely gonna have a disenchanting character now to make gold with as well, so just focusing on both uncommon items and rare items, and even on my main, I might even pick up enchanting plus alchemy. Alchemy directly gives you some benefits, and being an enchanter with the epic profession here, or epic escalations, will simply give me more crystals back whenever I swap out my gear. If I get an upgrade, that's good. I can now disenchant my old epic and get more crystals, and if I get loot from Mythic Plus that I don't need, that's also good, because now I can get more crystals, so either way it's a win. Now let's talk about blacksmithing, and blacksmithing is maybe the second most copy and paste profession from Dragonflight into the War Within, but that's because blacksmithing, you really do, you make bars, you make armor, you make weapons, and you make professional equipment. That being said, we have one pretty important change in the War Within, and that is something called a ever-burning forge, which we're going to talk more about in just a little bit. When it comes to how to make gold with blacksmithing, that's going to be a pretty big part of making gold, the ever-burning forge. You have the sanctified alloys, which, let's just call them bars. You're making bars, and in some cases you make core alloys, which is another bar, and you make bars, make them into better bars, and sell those better bars as well. When it comes to making bars, you want to focus on multi-craft and resourcefulness to make more of them and save costs while making them, and get the highest quality possible. And multi-craft will just proc even more crafts whenever you're crafting. You can also make a lot of gold by crafting armor, so you have a bunch of epic armor for example, but as you can see, they are bound when picked up. That being said, you will sell those and make gold with them through crafting orders. We have public crafting orders, we have patron crafting orders, and we have personal crafting orders. Now, you probably won't do many epic craft for the patron orders, unless they supply every single material, and then you just take the 78 gold commissions. But let's be real, 78 gold is pretty much nothing here, but you can also get some knowledge points and augment runes, so that's going to be good as well. But personal crafting orders will be where the most gold comes from being able to craft, for example, if this breastplate is best in slot, and you can guarantee this at quality 5, and you can put guaranteed stats on it through crafting reagents and missives, for example, that's going to be what people pay for. They will pay to get the best version of this chest they can, with the best stats for their class. Now, the same thing goes for weapons. You want to be able to make the epic weapons at the highest quality possible. So, for example, here, quality 5, I have to spend over 1,000 concentration to get this to quality 5. So you will need a lot of skill points, because I have currently spent every single knowledge point that I can. The only way for me to increase my skill is by having a profession tool and 2 accessories. Now, that tool and 2 accessories will definitely help, but you will still have to spend a bunch of concentration to make epic weapons at the highest quality, so keep that in mind. But once again, you want to be able to craft this weapon at the highest quality with the best stats possible for every single class, and then charge a commission for your craft. Now, you can also make professional equipment where you can make regular BOE ones and sell on the auction house, or you can learn better equipment as well, like this one, bound when picked up, and sell it through crafting orders. With that being said, let's talk about where to put your knowledge points in when it comes to blacksmithing and the different benefits they provide. So let's start with the easy ones first, even though they look like the most complicated. So we have armor smithing, where you focus on making armor. I'm not going to talk about everything here because you literally just make armor and you get more skill points and more recipes in your desired types of armor. You can, for example, go to the left here to focus on shields, legs and chests. You can go down the middle to focus on head, shoulders and feet. And on the right side you have waist, wrists and hands. So whichever ones you want to focus on, you will get more skill points for those and more recipes for those as well. If you want to make armor and make gold from making armor, this will be the way to go, and getting access to the best recipes in the game, a hefty amount of recipes, and making those recipes at the highest quality that you can. The same thing goes for weaponsmithing, even though you have a lot less options. So armor smithing is absolutely massive. Weaponsmithing, you have two different paths to take. You can go for blades or you can go for hafted, and in blades you can then focus on short blades or long blades, and over on hafted you can go for maces and axes and pole arms. So you have those options there as well. And once again, the main thing is you want to be able to craft the best weapons in the game at the highest quality that you can with the most skill that you can, and from there you can focus on improving your resourcefulness, like going down to armor or weapons for example. You want to focus on resourcefulness and ingenuity. Like skill is number one, but after skill, your secondary stats will be resourcefulness and ingenuity. Ingenuity will give you more concentration back whenever it procs, and will just help you make even more gold. Concentration will be a limited resource, recharging over time. Think of it like a daily resource. You can log in every single day, spend your concentration, and the more ingenuity you have, the more chances you have to get concentration back whenever you spend it. So that's going to be those two, like a real quick walkthrough of those two, like armor smithing and weaponsmithing, because they haven't really changed. You focus on making either armor or weapons, make a decision, and there we go. Next up we have means of production. So for means of production, you master the art of smithing professional equipment and consumable items. For the first one, you will get +1 skill whenever you're crafting professional equipment and consumables, so they benefit pretty much everything. After that, you can go down to the left here, Tools of the Trade. Hone your skills at crafting professional equipment, gaining +1 skill when crafting professional equipment per point spent. Then you can also focus on trade tools or trade accessories. So you have different tools and different accessories for different professions, being able to craft them at a higher quality. Down to the middle here you have stonework. Improve your ability to craft consumable stones which temporarily enhance your weapons, and profession tools, gaining +1 skill. So on the left here you have weapon stones, on the right you have tool enhancements. Going over to some recipes here, we can take a look at what these actually are. So going down to stones, we have iron claw razor stones. Sharpen your mining, herbalism or skinning tool, increasing finesse by 60 for 2 hours. You also have the weight stones, giving you attack power on blunt weapons, and you have whetstones giving you attack power on bladed weapons as well. So not only do you have stones now for combat, you also have stones for gathering, and they will just give you steady gold over time. Going back to the specialization tree, you can also go to the right side, Fortuitous Forges. Improves your ability to make finishing reagents and alloys, gaining +1 skill per point in this subspec. Then you can either focus on frameworks or alloys. When it comes to this one, you can make gold from framework, so you have adjustable framework, this one for example. When crafting gives you more multicraft, or multicraft yields more materials back when crafting consumables. Tempered framework, also resourcefulness over for everything. Then we have forged framework. This one gives you ingenuity for every single craft. So those are going to be good to have, but also making alloys. You can focus on making alloys of the highest quality and then sell those to other people that also need alloys, which are used by other blacksmiths, for example. Like if you are focused on, let's just say you have a weaponsmithing blacksmithing character and I have one with means of production. I can make better alloys than you can, and I can sell those alloys to you. That way you can can use quality 3 alloys for weaponsmithing to be able to make weapons of the highest quality that you can. And because you need such a high amount of skill now to make the highest quality, you want to have these at quality 3. So you want to have quality 3 alloys and quality 3 alloys. It will help you get more skill points here and be able to craft this at quality 5. So the quality of the crafting materials you use, they really matter a lot in crafting professions. So making gold by being a blacksmith, making alloys to sell it to other blacksmiths, will be a really viable way to make gold. Going to the last one here, we have Ever-Burning Forge, and this one gives you the ability to use the Ever-Burning Forge, and then will also give you various benefits from that as well. So as you can see here, gain ingenuity, multicraft, and resourcefulness per point spent, so you just get more of all of that, right? You get more multicraft, resourcefulness, and ingenuity for every point you spend here, and you also gain more stacks of the Ever-Burning Forge for everything you spend here, and then you can focus on either ingenuity, so you can get +3 ingenuity while using Ever-Burning Ignition per point spent. Down here you have resourcefulness, and over here you have multicraft. This will give you multicraft, resourcefulness, and ingenuity when you use Ever-Burning Ignition. So using this has a cooldown, and it recharges every 45 minutes roughly when you have maxed it out, and you have 10 available. I have 3 out of 10 right now, and if I make one of them, I'm just going to forge one right now and show you the benefits that you get when you have maxed everything out. So when you have maxed everything out, you make the Ever-Burning Ignition, and you want to use this. So for me, I'm going to use this and ignite the forge. We now get a buff. Your aptitude with the forge has granted you 255 ingenuity, 255 multicraft, and 255 resourcefulness for 30 minutes. This means that no matter what you are doing, if you are making gold through making alloys, if you're making gold through frameworks, if you're making gold through tool enhancements, weapon stones, trade accessories, trade tools, weaponsmithing, armor smithing, no matter which of these 3 you choose, you also want to go to Ever-Burning Forge for those benefits, and the more points you spend here, the more benefits you get, and this gives you a 30-minute window to craft as much as you can while these benefits are active. And it also provides blacksmiths with a cool kind of mechanic where you want to center your crafts around that buff as much as you can. So whenever you have this available, you have a craft available, and you can pop the buff, craft for 30 minutes, and you're done. Try to craft as much as you can in 30 minutes, instead of doing crafts one by one. So like, instead of logging on, doing one craft and logging out, don't do that. Center all your crafts around a 30-minute period, and make everything while you have these buffs. Like, this is a lot of this is a lot of buffs. Going to alloys, for example, you can see right now we have 10%, 9%, and 9%. If I drop this buff, we go down to 0, 1, and 1. You basically gain 10% resourcefulness, multicraft, and ingenuity from that buff. It is pretty massive. So when it comes to exact examples of how to make gold with blacksmithing, number 1 is going to be armor smithing, in which case you want to focus on the armor smithing specialization tree right here. You might not want to max everything out, but you might want to pick a choice between like left, right, or middle. Max that out, so like you spend 30 points here, 30 points here, 25, 25, and 25, which is already about 125 knowledge points, or 135 knowledge points. That's a lot of knowledge points. And after that, to min-max the quality of those materials, or to min-max the quality of your output, you go to Ever-Burning Forge and max this out as well, because Ever-Burning Forge will be worth maxing out no matter what you go for. So for making armor, I would go here, then to the left. After maxing out the left part, I would ignore the right and middle for now. Go to Ever-Burning Forge, max that out. After I've maxed this out, we go back to armor smithing, and now we can go down the middle and to the right as well, to max that out and get more recipes to be able to craft more. But the essence is you want to be able to craft large plate armors, so shield, legs, and chests, at the highest quality you can, and to make more gold with them. So you really want to specialize. Same thing goes for weaponsmithing. If I'm going to make gold through weaponsmithing, we make a choice of either blades or hafted, and we stick with that choice. So for me, I would put 30 into weaponsmithing, then 25, then 25, and 25 more right here. So that's going to be about 105 knowledge points, I think. Right here, 110 or something like that. That's a lot of knowledge points, and then go to Ever-Burning Forge and get those benefits. Then go back to weaponsmithing and go down to Hafted as well. So make a decision, left or right, and stick to that one, and then go to Ever-Burning Forge to increase your profits. Now, mass means of production, you can make gold in different ways. Number one is making alloys. You can make a real argument for putting 30 points here, 30 points here, then 20 points. So that is only an 80 points spec. But you also want to go for Ever-Burning Forge. So if you want to make as much gold as possible through alloys, 30 points, 30 points, 20 points, so 80 points. And then you also want to spend the points over here, which this is going to be about 100 points, right? Yeah, exactly 100 points. So 180 points, and now you can make alloys at the highest quality you can, and make the most gold through alloys. You can also make gold through tool enhancements and weapon stones, or even making professional equipment. So for means of production, you really have 3 separate ways to go: either tools, stones, or alloys. Alloys plus framework, and then Ever-Burning Forge. So doing a quick recap here: method number one, craft armor; method number 2, craft weapons; method number 3, craft professional equipment; method number 4, craft alloys; and method number 5, craft stones. Alright, that's 5 different ways to make gold with blacksmithing as of right now, and once again, you really want to pick one of them and specialize into one of them for now, especially for the start, and then you can branch out further as the weeks go by. The thing is, knowledge points will be hard to get by, and having all of the knowledge points that I currently have, for example, this took me about 850 knowledge points. That's going to be like a year. That's going to take a long time to get, so you will probably never max this out, or it's going to take a long while. So once again, you really want to specialize into one of the 5 ways that I just talked about. Either way, that's going to be how to make gold with blacksmithing in the War Within, so hopefully this video cleared stuff up, and hopefully it taught you something about how to use blacksmithing to make gold in the War Within. Now, Herbalism is how I have made a lot of my gold in the past, and it's such an easy profession. Like, it's one of the best ways to make steady gold for your time spent, regardless of your kind of how many people you know in the game, because some farms like tailoring and skinning, you want to be in a group, and sometimes finding groups can be difficult. You have to play in some cases you have to play the right class, and you have to know the right people to get into a good group. For Herbalism, all you do is fly around, look for flowers, pick them up, sell them on the auction house. It is super simple, and it's usually one of the most competitive gold per hour farms out there, so it's one of the best ways to farm gold as well, in pretty much any expansion, and the War Within is looking no different. That being said, we have a couple of changes for Herbalism, so let's go over those. Now over here, I'm about to loot something called an Irradiated Mycobloom, and that is basically the first change. If you played Dragonflight, you probably are familiar with the different types of elemental herbs that we had. Like, going into Herbalism right now through the Herbalism journal, if you went into specializations, you were able to spec into Master of the Elements, which I'm going to show you right now when I'm looting this. And when I'm looting this, we get a ley line residue, we get knocked back, and we get, well, this is something you can just get when you're farming. You sometimes get a petal, giving you 1 knowledge point, and because I'm kind of lacking, I'm just going to use that right now to get that knowledge point, so there we go. And now we can choose a specialization when we got that final skill point. So in the War Within, when you spec into overloading the elements, as it was called, you could get more rousing fires, rousing air, rousing ice, like rousing frost, right? You had frozen herbs, you had molten herbs, you had all of those different types of herbs to give you more elements. We don't have that this time. Instead, we have overloading the underground, and instead of having, for example, fire elements, water elements, air elements, earth elements, we have irradiated, which, as you can see, just gave me a ley line residue. And instead of earth, for example, we have spore fused, which will give you other items as well, like magical spores and stuff like that. So yeah, you can learn how to reduce the cooldown. The tree is basically the same as the one we had in Dragonflight, but you get different materials. So instead of getting elementals, like different like air, fire, frost, and earth, you're now getting different materials instead that has nothing to do with elements. It's just a rare crafting reagent that is used by pretty much any profession, by the way, not just herbalism, so it's used by pretty much anything. It's a really valuable profession to have, like herbalism that is, because you get something that is used by pretty much everyone. First of all, you get herbs used in Alchemy and Inscription, but you also get these residues which are used by pretty much everyone once again. You also have the altered herbs, as you can see here, that's another one to get another crafting reagent as well, and you also have crystallized herbs, which will give you crystalline powder. So when it comes to choosing a talent tree here, you just want to go for the one that is the most profitable, and if I had to make a guess right now, I would say crystallized might be the best one, but then again, if everyone goes for crystallized, it's probably going to be something else. So for which spec to go through, we're going to go through that later in the video as well, but I just wanted to cover this part. Instead of having rousing fire or elemental fire and water, air, and earth, we have different items that has nothing to do with elements at all, but it's just magical herbs giving you magical reagents that are then further used by pretty much any other profession out there to craft various items, which will make herbalism a really good farming profession to have, because you're farming for rare materials used by everyone. Apart from that, in general, herbalism hasn't really changed that much. You fly around, you look for herbs, and the changes to herbalism comes from the different specs that you go through, which, let's cover that now, the different specializations to go to with herbalism, and what they have to offer. Positioning me on the top right here, you can see we also found a, well, we have a micro bloom down here, but we also have a different item to loot right here, even though it's not telling me right now. It's a crystallized blessing blossom. And there we go. So this gave you a crystalline powder, which we already have 7 of, so we have been farming this quite a bit before this. And yeah, you got the crystallized powder right there from that one. So you want to look for those kind of magical herbs, and if you want to focus more on the magical elements as well, you go for the overloading the underground talent tree or specialization. So let's cover specializations. Let's just start with overloading the underground because we're already here. Now this is going to teach you to gather more efficiently the magical reagents that we just talked about. We have ley line residue, we have crystalline powder, and then we have these two as well. We have the altered herbs and we have the spore fused, which will give you other materials, once again used by pretty much any crafting profession out there. Now for the first one, the first talent tree, you will learn how to overload empowered herbs. So when you find a magical herb, you can then overload it, allowing you to channel energy into empowered herbs for unique bonuses and effects if you don't know how to already. In addition, the cooldown of this ability is reduced whenever you gather herbs on Castlegar, and the more talents you put here, the more this cooldown gets reduced every single time, so you can just learn to empower these herbs more often. And once you have mastered this one, like gone all the way around, you will gain an additional charge as well, plus you can start specializing into which one you really want to go for. Do you want to maximize your profits from crystallized? Do you want to go for altered? Do you want to go for spore fused? Or do you want to go for irradiated? And they will give you various benefits when you go through them. Reading out, for example, crystallized here, attune yourself with the lands further, granting you a return portal whenever you overload a crystallized herb. So anytime you overload a crystallized herb, you will get a return portal, and then you will also get finesse, skill, perception, like perception gives you more rare materials, right? And then once again, you will get even more like a refund back for your overload ability whenever you use it on crystallized specifically. You will again get more finesse, more skill, more perception, and finally, this will give you more crystalline powder. So overloading a crystallized herb has a chance to grant you extra powder, meaning when you focus on this, you're really specializing into crystallized. After that, you can specialize into any of the other ones, and mainly it's the same thing, finesse, skill, and perception, and then you can gain more. So for example, from the attuned ones or the altered ones, you will get more breathing samples, and from spore fused, you will get more magical, this one actually is different. you have tuned yourself to the magical spores and can see camouflaged herbs while affected by them, so you can find additional herbs that are otherwise stealthed. Apart from that, it's usually the same tree, so you just pick the one you want to go for, and at the end you will get even more stuff. You can receive more samples, right? And the same thing for Radiated 2. Master your skills over Arcane Duplication, granting an additional herb when you use it. So overall, this spec hasn't really changed that much from Dragonflight, it's only the names that are changing. So instead of elements, you're finding different magical crafting reagents that are rare, and you can find them from magical flowers, and you can increase your chance to find them as well by speccing into it. Now, the real changes for Herbalism starts coming through in Botany and Bountiful Harvest. So let's go through Botany first. The first talent tree right here will give you more finesse per point spent, and the gathering herbs in Castlegar will replenish 1 Vigor, and also plus 30 deftness while gathering herbs. That's like the, just learning this will give you that bonus, right? And you will focus on getting more deftness throughout this talent tree. So more deftness, more perception, more finesse once again, finesse again as well, learning the final subspec, 45 deftness, and at the end you will then learn how to gather Castlegar herbs while mounted. And this is where your class choice comes into play. Druids, they have a distinct advantage, because we can gather herbs in flight form, and in the War Within, flight form has dragon flying. So for you guys, you already have this for Herbalism, if you play a Druid. If you play anything else, this is really good for you, but for Druid specifically, we already have this. Now, going down here, this is where things get interesting. You learn a brand new ability, a magical mulch, or mulching. So over here you will learn how to process herbs into magical mulch, and you can also learn how to make even better mulch. So you have imbued mulch right here, and empowered mulch right here. Now over here, when you put 10 talent points in, your botanical knowledge allows you to activate your green thumb, getting double the herbs from your next gather. So going over to my journal right here, I don't have these yet, but we can take a look at, for example, magical mulch that we already have, that we haven't made, that we don't even know how to either. But I have a character on the other server where I have tried this out. So empowered mulch, prepare the mulch for use, you will apply it to the next herb that you gather, granting you a significant amount of finesse. You can only use 1 mulch at a time, and something you are not seeing here is that this craft usually has a cooldown, I think it still does, and what this does is it gives you more finesse once again. If you don't know what finesse is, let's go over to regular Michael Bloom for example, and finesse you have a 0.0% chance to gather more of the primary reagent found when gathering. So it's basically like a lush herb, and you're forcing out a lush herb. You can gather a regular Michael Bloom and get even more Michael Bloom, or you can use it on a lush Michael Bloom and get even more Michael Blooms as well. So you're basically crafting this mulch and using it to get even more from your next gathering herb, whatever that is. Now this is something you pretty much always want to apply whenever you can, because even if you don't apply the empowered mulch, like if you want to apply this, really depends on what you find. Sometimes the spores might be too expensive to always apply, but the Michael Bloom is going to be cheap, because you can use quality 1, and the quality of your empowered mulch, like the quality 1, quality 2, and quality 3, doesn't matter, because they don't exist, it's only one quality. So you can just use regular quality 1 Michael Bloom, but the price of reticent spores will determine how often this will be worth doing. That being said, you also have access to regular imbued mulch, which instead of requiring 4 spores, it only requires 2 ley line residues and 10 Michael Bloom. Now, if that's too expensive as well, you have regular magical mulch, which only costs 5 Michael Bloom to craft, and it could give you something like 5 Blessing Blossoms back, and Blessing Blossom is very likely going to be significantly more expensive than, for example, Michael Bloom. Michael Bloom is arguably going to be the most common herb this expansion, and you can use 5 of them to make 1 mulch. Now, in addition to that, we just talked about this, your botanical knowledge allows you to activate your green thumb, getting double the herbs from your next gather. So by going down to mulching, you're focusing a lot on getting more herbs back for the time you spend. And that sentence is going to be important because you either focus on more herbs, higher quality herbs, seeds, or the magical reagents, based on how you put your knowledge points. And going down to mulching is going to be how to focus on more herbs. Now, how to focus on seeds, for example, you go down to cultivation. On cultivation, you will first of all expand your knowledge of the verdant seeds found in Castle Gar, allowing you to find them more often. These seeds can be planted at the Beledar's Bounty in Hallowfall, so instead of flying around the Dragonflight and the Dragon Isles looking for rich soil to plant seeds in, you now have a farm, a designated area with lots of rich soils that you can plant seeds in. So there's going to be a huge emphasis on farming seeds and having seed groups now to make gold with herbalism. And if you want to go down that route of farming seeds and making gold through seeds, the first thing you want to go to is going into seeds back to get more seeds back. Now after that you can also go either into mulching or bountiful harvest to increase the yield either through skill or quantity, like quality or quantity, from the herbs you pick up from the seeds. Now talking about quality, that is where bountiful herbs comes in. For bountiful herbs you will increase the skill point whenever you gather herbs, and you can then focus on whatever herb you want to focus on to get your skill up even more. And that's basically what this one is, it just gives you a massive amount of skill. Now when it comes to skill, this will be the deciding factor between getting quality 1, quality 2 or quality 3 herbs, and you really want to focus on getting your herbs at the highest quality you can. We don't have concentration for herbalism, right, so skill really matters here. And if you want to have quality 3, the only way to get quality 3, especially early, will be to go through this talent tree, so bountiful harvest. And let's say that blessing blossom will be the best flower, the most expensive one. You then want to try to get those at quality 3 as well. So you go into bountiful harvest, and then you spec further into blossom browser, and you put 40 skill points in here, then 40 skill points in here. Now the 40 skill points you first put into bountiful harvest will give you skill in any flower, and then when you specialize into blossom browser, you will then get even more skill in only blessing blossom. So let's do a quick recap. If you want to focus on higher quality herbs, bountiful harvest will be the specialization that you want to go for. If you want to focus on the quantity, like the amount of herbs you're farming, you want to go to botany. And not just that, you want to go to botany, then down right to mulching, to increase the quantity gained from herbs as well. If you want to focus on seeds, go down to the left and focus on cultivation, and if you want to focus on perception, aka rare reagents for herbalism, go to overloading the underground. That will allow you to find more of the magical reagents, like for example crystalline powder, ley line residue, the writhing samples, and the spore fused the spore fused herbs, right? So that's going to be a quick little overview of herbalism in the War Within and how it works. Now I also want to add that I am level 71 and I can pick up the weekly quest for herbalism. I just wanted to add that really quickly towards the end of the video here, because there has been some speculations that in the War Within we had to be level 80 to pick up the weekly quest, and I think they were just not in the beta, because I could not find them in the beta until today. So suddenly, out of nowhere, today we can now find them on the beta, and herbalism, I can get that at level 71. Going over here, for example, in Profession Trainer, like this city is still so new to me that I have to do this every single time. Even though I've been to this trainer several times, I can never fully learn the location of it. I have finally learned the tailoring one, because I'm using that one quite often, but as you can see, we have a weekly quest available for herbalism, and this one is just to turn in a bunch of lure drops, so a handful of lure drops, and they have to be quality 1, so 3 quality 1 lure drops gives you the Algari herbalist nodes. I just wanted to add that because that means you can start building your spec at level 70 or 71. You don't have to be level 80. So if you are gathering your leveling army, either for like any other profession too, but definitely herbalism, you can start getting your knowledge points really early. And for Herbalism, for example, there's no benefits to being level 80 really. So for me, I'm probably going to level up an alt from level 70 to level 80, only from Herbalism plus mining. Now, that's 20 minutes of me talking about Herbalism, so hopefully that may give you a better idea of what Herbalism has to offer in the brand new expansion. The main changes are that we now have access to the Hallow Fall farm, we have the mulching ability, and instead of different elements, we have magical reagents. Other than that, it's very much the same. So yeah, if you enjoyed this Herbalism overview, please leave a like down below, and let me know if there's any other things about Herbalism you would have liked to see in this guide as well, in the comments, just to make it a full guide for Herbalism, with both the video and the comments. And moreover, I want to hear which specialization are you guys going for, if you made it until the end. If you had to choose only one, or which one are you going for first, Bountiful Harvests, Botany, or Overloading the Underground? Speaking from personal experience from Dragonflight, I'm probably going for Bountiful Harvest, but I haven't really made up my mind yet. I might even have two separate herbalists, where one focuses on quality and one focuses on the overloading element. And mining is going to be a really good profession. I usually pair mining with herbalism on one character, so I can do I can just fly laps and gather stuff and make gold. So herbalism plus mining on the same character is usually the way to go. Now, for mining itself, it hasn't really changed that much from Dragonflight. In essence, what you're doing is flying around, gathering stuff and making gold, and talking about the specializations here, they also haven't changed that much. You have one specialization focused on skill, increasing the quality of what you gather. You have one increasing the quantities of what you gather as well, and also teaching you how to do stuff while mounted and just giving you benefits. And then you have one focused on the, let's call them special veins. Like, these are the rare types of veins you can find in the world, and you can learn how to gather more of those rare reagents from those veins. So let's start with things that are easy. Plethora of ore. This specialization will give you more skill points whenever you're doing mining, and you can then focus on one type of mining vein to increase that skill even further, and skill equals higher quality, going from getting quality 1 and quality 2 to possibly getting quality 3. Now, in the War Within, quality will be way more important than it was in Dragonflight, because you're selling these reagents to people using them in crafting, and crafting professions right now, they have a much higher recipe difficulty, so getting to, for example, quality 5 crafted items will be borderline impossible. You have to min-max a lot, and sometimes even use your concentration to get there, and one way to increase the skill points of your crafts when doing them is by having higher quality reagents that you're using in the craft. Higher quality reagents equals higher chance of a higher skilled item or higher quality item, so people want to have higher quality gatherable materials. For example, if I'm a blacksmith, engineer or jewelcrafter, I need quality 3 ore, and one of the main ways to get quality 3 ore, maybe the only way as well, will be to spec into plethora of ore. So the first one will give you +1 skill point in everything per point spent. That will be 50 skill points in total, and you also get various bonuses throughout this talent tree as well, giving you more skill points, and more skill points over here, and more, for example, perception, deftness, and finesse as well, and some various skill points throughout this talent tree. So just a whole lot of skill points. Now, after that, you can also choose to specialize into either Iron Claw deposits, or Acherite deposits, or Bismuth deposits. If I had to hazard a guess on what I think is going to be the best one to go for, I would say Iron Claw, but then again, that's just a guess from the beta so far, so pay attention to the prices of all of these, see which one is the best one, the most expensive one, and then maybe specialize into that one to get that at a higher skill and make even more gold. So in essence, you want to max out the first one with 50 knowledge points to get plus skill in everything, and then you want to pick the one that is the best one out of these three. Now, that's plethora of ore, you're literally just focusing on skill. For mining fundamentals, you're focusing on the quantity and increasing your stats even further, plus you can learn how to mine while mounted. So let's check this one out. So the first one right here, you will get +3 finesse per point spent. Going over to, for example, Iron Claw right here, finesse is going to give you more materials. So once again, higher quantity. You're focusing on the quantity obtained per deposit. Now, when you max this out, which is going to be 60 points spent, you can now mine while mounted. And throughout this talent tree, you will also get various other benefits, usually skill points, perception, deftness, and finesse. So higher qualities, higher quantities, focusing a lot on the quantity here. And after you have maxed out the main one, you can then either focus on rich deposits, once again quantity, or seams, which are also quantity. So you're focusing on either one of these and focusing on getting more skill points when gathering that. So you just want to go for either rich or seams, and I can't really tell you which one to go for here. I would probably go for seams though. I usually find more seams than rich, but yeah, both of them are going to be good and they only have 25 each. So if you're going for quantity anyway, 60 points here, 25 and then 25, so 110 points in total. Now, for the last specialization, we have something called Mastering the Mysterious, and for this one, a very easy way to understand this is that you're focusing on perception and the rare materials you can get whenever you're doing mining, on mainly specific rare types of veins, so specialty type of ores. So let's go and check that one out. You, for example, have, first of all, you have Mastering the Mysterious, which gives you ability called Mastering the Elements, or Overloading Empowered Deposits. So over here, the cooldown of Overload the Empowered Deposits is reduced whenever you mine stuff, and it teaches you the Empowered Deposit as well, if you already don't have it. Now, this will basically make it so that when you find a empowered, or like when you find a deposit like this, when you find a empowered deposit, you can overload it to get more stuff back. So for example, a couple of examples here of empowered deposits is that you have webbed deposits, you have something called easy throw mine nodes as well, which are basically dynamite nodes, you have weeping nodes, and you also have crystallized nodes. And crystallized nodes, for example, I have found a couple of them here. Crystallized nodes will then give you crystalline powder. You can also get ley line residue, you can get spore samples, so you can get those rare materials from Herbalism plus mining, and this is basically the mining version. Now, whenever you overload these nodes, you will gain benefits. So for example, whenever you learn how to empower a crystallized, this will give you return portals, where are now summoned at your destinations after overloading crystallized deposits. So they give you some weird stuff, damage taken from horrific poison when gathering weeping deposits is reduced, and they just give you specific or very specific types of bonuses whenever you overload them. That being said, you also unlock the ability to get more stuff whenever you overload. So for example here, mining crystallized deposits grants an additional 30% cooldown reduction to overload empowered deposits, so you get more cooldown back. But when you max this out, which is 40 points, overloading a crystallized deposit grants bonus crystalline powder, so you will get guaranteed crystalline powder every single time, and you will now get more crystalline powder as well from overloading crystallized deposits. So for this one, you can focus on learning everything that you can, getting a higher skill, and focusing on getting cooldown back and getting another charge of empowered deposit as well, or overloading deposits, and you're focusing on using that ability to give yourself guaranteed rare crafting reagents from these deposits. A very easy way to think about mining is that the first knowledge tree or specialization tree, plethora of ore, focuses on the quality of ores. Mining fundamentals is the quantity of ores, and mastering the mysterious is focusing on the rare reagents found from rare veins. So, well, rare elemental veins, even though they're not technically elemental anymore, but you get what I mean, like the rare specific types of veins, like the dynamite veins, we have the webbed veins, we have the weeping veins, and we have the crystallized veins, and you're focusing on getting that rare material from those veins, and you can even learn how to guarantee that from the overload overloading ability, and you can learn how to reduce the cooldown of the overloading ability even more, and you can get a second charge of it as well. Now, these materials, the rare reagents, they will be used by every single crafting profession out there, and they will be in high demand. So you can make a really solid argument for going for mastering the mysterious for your main specialization point for mining to maximize your gold per hour here. But I can't really tell you which path to choose from, or like which path to go to. I'm just going to highlight what they all are. So once again, quality, quantity, and the rare reagents. And that's basically the mining video, because in essence it's pretty much the same as Dragonflight, it's just new names. Instead of having rousing fire and rousing ice and rousing air, and well, rousing frost and rousing air and rousing earth, we now have crystalline powders and ley line residues. We don't have those elemental fires anymore. We have something else. It's just a magical type of crafting reagents that's rare. But in essence, all of the knowledge trees, they work the same way. So hopefully this video was able to help you out a little bit with mining. I'm not going to give you specific examples of where to put knowledge points, because in essence it's all subjective. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below. And that is the profession overview video series for gold making. At this point we have covered every single profession, talking about their specialization points and how to spend them, and covering the benefits of every single specialization tree. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, and hopefully it was helpful to you. So, like I just said, we have found a lot of skinning farms in the War Within now so far on the beta, and I have been leveling this character from level 70 to level 80, as well as done some level 80 gameplay as well, with skinning on this character. Now, that being said, I haven't put that many knowledge points into skinning yet. I've just been skinning regularly while doing content, and while leveling and stuff like that, but we have gotten to 100 skinning points, and we have skinned a few different beasts, and we have found different locations for skinning. And even though skinning has not changed that much from Dragonflight, I will say right now, it is probably going to be more relevant than it was in Dragonflight, and leather in general will be more relevant, and also the different types of creature-specific types of skins will also be more relevant. Like, going to my bags right now, we for example have the Burning Cinderbeast Satay. I hope I said that correctly, but that's like a rare species-specific material gathered from Cinderbeast. So you have different types of these materials that will be rare species-specific. We have a couple more as well, I think. We have, for example, honed bone shards, another species-specific material gathered from creatures with horns or tusks. We also have this one, the clipped birdwing, and we also have this, the Kahiti swarm chitin. So we have several different materials that are species-specific, and they will be more relevant in the War Within than they were in Dragonflight. So now let's start talking about spending knowledge points and the different kind of specializations you can go for and what they actually give you. So let's start by reading the highlights for every single specialization, then talk about how to spend the points as well. So first of all, we have tanning. For tanning, you learn the sharpen your knife, which is a brand new ability we have access to now, guaranteeing hides from skinning. Now that ability also has a cooldown, so we have it right here. Sharpen your knife. Use your expert knowledge of the outdoors to find a suitable stone to sharpen your knife. The sharpening process will guarantee you receive a hide or carapace from your next Algari skinning attempt. The whole process is physically taxing and cannot be undertaken often. As of right now, we have a 1 hour cooldown on this, and you can guarantee a hide. So for example, when you're doing leather, you can sometimes get a hide, like a rare hide, not just uncommon, but a rare hide, and whenever you are gathering chitin, you can sometimes get a carapace. So we for example have the thunderous hide, and I don't have any carapaces right now, but we have a thunderous hide. So instead of getting Stormforged leather, you can guarantee a hide once per hour, and the more you will learn tanning, the more you reduce that cooldown as well, and the better hides you get. You also increase your skill while skinning, which will make it so instead of getting your skill 1 or rank 1, you can start getting rank 2, maybe even rank 3, so you get higher quality leather. You can also learn to refine lower quality reagents into a higher quality one, so go into the skinning journal here. You can refine chitin rank 2 by turning rank 1s into rank 2. where you turn 5 quality 1 into 1 quality 2. Now, for the most part, refining leather and refining chitin has usually not been profitable, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but it can be. So you have the option to, usually it's irrelevant, but you have the option to. Now, for the next specialization, you have harvesting, and the specialization highlight for harvesting is you learn to gather meat for cooking from skinned creatures, you gather additional rare reagents from skinned creatures, you can craft lures used to target specific fish, and you can increase your deftness, finesse, and perception while skinning. Let's talk about those for a quick second here. So here we have the gathering details: skill, finesse, deftness, and perception. Finesse will increase the chance to gather more of the primary reagent. Think about this like whenever you find hides, you get more hides, and whenever you find leather, you get more leather as well. For deftness, you have gathering speed, and perception, you have a higher chance to spot rare reagents while gathering. So, for example, hides, you have a better chance to get those hides, and this one also counts towards creature-specific items as well. So, returning back here, we have luring as the last one. Create bait to lure creatures that yield rare materials when skinned, and you can infuse bait with empowered energy found throughout Castlegar, allowing you to gather additional reagents. You can also increase your deftness, finesse, and perception while skinning over here as well. Now let's talk about how to spend these specializations so you can go to the full tree. Let's start with luring, where we just left off here. For this one, you have luring, then you have the impressive infuser, and you have trade tracker. This will be a very good talent tree to go for if you're focusing on group farm skinning, and the reason why is that you will learn to lure elusive creatures, which will give you more materials than a regular mob, and then you can learn to infuse your bait to give, for example, if you infuse it with, you have crystallized infused bait, or I'll just show you. So here, for example, you have learned to infuse your standard lures with crystalline powder, and over here you have viridescent spores, and lastly you have writhing samples. And when you use your writhing samples to infuse the bait, the mob you will kill and skin will drop more writhing samples. So as an example here, you use 1 sample to infuse the bait and probably get 20 samples back. So going over to these baits real quick, we have the elusive creature lure, which is going to be the basic type of bait that you're using to get an elusive creature to you. This requires 10 basically beef, which is going to be super cheap on the auction now. So this is going to be super cheap to make, and you can use this on an hourly cooldown, or it says it has a 12-hour cooldown, but you can reduce this cooldown when skinning, which we'll talk about in a bit. You can also infuse them with 3 powders, 3 spores, or 1 sample here, 1 breathing sample, but 3 spores and 3 crystalline powder. So when you infuse it with crystalline powder, you get way more crystalline powder back whenever you skin the creature that you get from this lure. You also have the option to make other types of lures as well, so you have the Beast Lure Scent, which will attract all unoccupied skinnable beasts within 60 yards to you. Then you have the Supreme Beast Lure as well. Place the bait luring a supreme elusive creature out of hiding, only usable in the rumbling waste located in the ringing deeps. Now, the reason why this specialization tree will be very good whenever you're doing group farm skinning is because of what I just said. This one has a 12-hour cooldown. The bait you're using here has a 12-hour cooldown, but you will learn to reduce this cooldown the more points you spend. So, for example here, the amount of cooldown refunded for your elusive creature bait through skinning is doubled when skinning elite and rare creatures, and going over here to the impressive infuser, you will also learn to reduce the cooldown here as well whenever you're doing regular skinning. As you can see here, the amount of cooldown refunded from regular skinning is increased by a small amount, and this will happen several times. Over here as well, another small amount, and I believe even for this one, the trained tracker. Yeah, so here we go, the amount of cooldown refunded for your elusive bait through skinning is increased once again, and over here as well by a small amount, over here by a small amount. and your skills grow, you can now lure the elite creatures as well, so not just regular but elite. Over here small amount, over here small amount, and over here you will then learn to make the supreme beast lure for summoning a powerful creature in a specific location. So the more points you spend in any of these talent trees, the more cooldown you will refund whenever you're skinning. So even though it's only a 12-hour cooldown, doing this in Dragonflight for example, you were able to get it down to a 10-minute cooldown, sometimes even less as well. So from 12 hours to 10 minutes by being in a 5-man party or 2x4 by doing group farm skinning. Now, when it comes to farming professions, and skinning is no different, you are pretty much free to choose any combination you want. You can, for example, go for only specking into a little bit of luring, then go into harvesting, then go into tanning. But specifically for luring, I want to say that if you're focusing on bait crafting, and then using that bait to get more materials back, basically focusing on luring, max out all of these trees. Spend 120 knowledge points inside this tree, just max it out, because every single one of them will be very beneficial. You will get way more cooldown back, you can use the bait more often, making more gold from the bait. Now for harvesting, we once again have the option to get meat, and we have the option to get trophies, basically the rare materials, and we have the meat carver, and we have the fishing friend. So for harvesting, for example, you will get deftness while skinning, and also finesse. Just this is the general type of skill tree over here. And as you can see, you get a lot of general stats. You will get +3 deftness per point spent, and there's 40 points to spend, so a total of 120 deftness, and you get 20 finesse right here, 15 deftness here, 20 perception, 75 finesse, 15 deftness, over here 20 perception, and finally you have a chance to, while skinning, to find bizarrely shaped stomachs. What could possibly be inside them? And I have found a couple of these while skinning myself, and they usually contain the different types of materials. Like they can contain herbs, so you get herbs for them, you get the different types of ridding samples, the viridian charm caps, you sometimes get the spores as well, so those types of materials, and you can just get pretty much anything inside those stomachs. Even engineering items can be found from those stomachs, for now at least, and sometimes you get the meats as well from stomachs. It just gives you random stuff. So another way to make gold. Then after that you can specialize into, for example, the species specific types of items here, so you gain an increased chance to gather more species specific reagents from the creatures of Castle Gar, and the more points you spend here, the higher of a chance you will have to find those items. So for example here at the end you will gain 150 perception while skinning. That's massive. And then you also have, for example, meat carvering giving you meat, and then you have the ability to make lures used for fishing as well. And finally for tanning, you have the ability to gather higher quality reagents. So instead of getting quality 1 leather or quality 1 chitin, you can get quality 2 and sometimes even quality 3. You basically go from having a guaranteed chance to get quality 1 and sometimes getting a quality 2 to having a guaranteed quality 2 and sometimes quality 3. That increase is going to be massive. And for the first one, you will just get plus skill in all of them, and after that you can go to the left here for leather and then to the right for chitin. Speaking from past experience, leather is usually more profitable than chitin, so keep that in mind. You might want to go leather this time as well. So for me, if I was going tanning, I would max out regular tanning first by spending 40 points right here, and then go into leather, spending another 40 points in leather as well. Now after that you can either go to chitin to be able to do both leather and chitin farming, or you can, for example, combine leather farming with harvesting. So you can have spent 40 points right here for tanning, then 40 points into leather, then you can go into harvesting and spend 40 points in harvesting plus 40 points in trophy taker, giving you the increased chance to get, for example, cinder bees. Cinder bees will drop leather plus this reagent right here, so for that one you would specialize in, for example, farming cinder bees, where there's going to be a really good way to farm gold in the War Within. You can also, for example, focus on getting these, the clipped bat wings, if you want to farm for those. So if you want to farm for both species specific items and leather at the same time, focus on this one, Trophy Taker, and tanning for higher quality leather and higher quality tanning, or higher quality hides. Now, once again, when you go for tanning right here, you will get the ability Sharpen Your Knife, guaranteeing a hide or a chitin. What is it called? A chitin. You will have a higher chance, or a guaranteed chance, to get a hide or a carapace. There we go, carapace, not a chitin, but carapace. So for mail, carapace. For leather, you have hides, and you will have a guaranteed chance to get those once per hour. Now, whenever you put talent points here as well, or knowledge points, you can also get more charges. So right here, halfway through, you will gain a second charge of that ability, giving you 2 hides per hour now. And finally, you will have a third charge, giving you 3 hides per hour, guaranteed whenever you're farming skinning. So tanning will just help you get higher quality stuff and more hides than usual. So for me, if I was going tanning, which I am going to do on one of my skinning characters, maybe my main one as well, I'm going to max out tanning first by spending 40 points, then go 40 points into leather, then go into harvesting, and focus on both harvesting, regular harvesting for the amount of materials you get back, and also Trophy Taker. Once again, the creature specific, or the species specific materials here, crafting reagents, they will be way more relevant this time around than they were in Dragonflight. They are used in so many different crafts out there, even like Leatherworking uses them, Tailoring uses them. A lot of professions will require them this time around, and they will be way more in demand than ever before. Specifically for leatherworking, they are making different types of hides in leatherworking, which requires these materials. So focusing on Trophy Taker will be more valuable now than it was in Dragonflight, and I made the mistake of going down this path in Dragonflight, and I'm doing it again because once again, it's looking way better this time around. But yeah, in essence, skinning hasn't changed that much from Dragonflight, so if you skinned in Dragonflight, you will be familiar with most of these. The only things that have changed are the names, and to a certain extent, how relevant some of them are. Like, for example, once again, species-specific reagents will be more relevant this time around than they were in the past, and luring is a little bit different, with the amount of stuff you can infuse into the hides. And tanning works basically the same, but we have the Sharpen the Knife ability. But for the most part, it's very similar to how it was in Dragonflight. And that's basically what I have to say about skinning. Once again, it's very hard for me to tell you exactly how to spend your points, because it's very subjective. I will just say that if you are focusing solely on group farming with skinning, luring and bait crafting will probably be the way to go, because once again you get so much cooldown refunded from skinning, and when you're in a 5-man group or 2x4, you will skin so many creatures. Referring back to my Dragonflight experience, we had 10-minute cooldowns. It's usually a 12-hour cooldown, so you take 12 hours down to 10 minutes by being in a group, because you're killing so many mobs and skinning so many mobs, and because everyone in a group can skin the same mob, it is just very valuable to be in a group farm. And then after you have maxed out luring, that is when you can make a personal choice between harvesting or tanning, even though I would probably recommend tanning. Higher quality leather will always be in demand, and especially this time around, like in the War Within, skill points are way more important than they were in Dragonflight. Getting higher quality crafts will be very difficult, so guaranteeing quality 5 epic items for example will be borderline impossible, and you will spend concentration points to do that. Now, in order to get as close as you can, you need high quality reagents, because high quality reagents gives you additional skill points when crafting a recipe. So people will want quality 3 leather, and people will want quality 3 hides, just like they will also want quality 3 carapaces and quality 3 chitin as well. So the higher quality materials you find, the better, and tanning is arguably going to be more relevant than ever as well. Either way, that's my video for skinning. Hopefully it taught you something about skinning, and hopefully it made your decisions a little bit easier, even though I made it more complicated for myself, because I want to go for everything. I want to have one skinning character focus on tanning, one on harvesting, and one on luring, so I have to make a decision here. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed the video, leave a like if you did, and let me know which path you are going to take on your skinning character in the comment down below. I would love to hear some opinions. Let's talk about setting up the ultimate farming character in the War Within. Now, the first thing you will want to have is a character with Herbalism plus mining. This is kind of the staple of gold farming when it comes to easy solo gold farms. Having a character with herbalism and mining will just be highly beneficial. You can even be in certain group farms when it comes to both of these professions, and it's always good to have one character with both herbalism and mining at the same time, just to double dip on the amount of gatherable materials you can get while flying a lap. Now, for the most part, most mining routes will also be really good herbalism node routes, and you can really farm both at the same time very efficiently. Now, for those two, you just fly around, gather stuff. There's not much to talk about, but it's worth mentioning super early. Now, when it comes to other than that, like other than just having a herbalism plus mining character, let's talk about using tailoring. When it comes to gold farming with tailoring in the War Within, this works very similarly to how it worked in Dragonflight. Now, there are a couple of different things from Dragonflight in the War Within, and mainly it's that it looks like only tailors will be able to loot cloth. Now, that might be changed before the expansion comes out, but based on my tailoring or based on my beta testing so far, I can't get cloth on my non-tailors, meanwhile my tailoring gets them in abundance. On top of that, if tailors are the only ones able to get cloth, you can also increase the amount you get from going into textile treasures up to 100% additional cloth. Now, you will also learn how to find weaver cloth bolts as well from humanoids from this tree, and once you fully max it out, it's about 100%, not about, exactly 100% bonus to your cloth gained. In addition to that, by speccing over here, and you can just learn this one, like learn this, and then you instantly learn a subspec, and by learning a subspec, you will then learn to find scraps of Dawnweave from humanoids around Castlegar, and how to turn that into Dawnweave bolts. Now, on the other hand, you have Duskweave, and in order to unlock the second one, you will have to put 30 points in here as well. So based on that, for tailoring, this is the spec you want to go for when it comes to farming cloth. This will require 60 skill points in total, but you can start getting about 75% of the effectiveness here from only having 30 points, and then the final 30 will unlock either Dawnweave or Duskweave as your second choice. So tailoring right here, that's the build to go for. Now, for tailoring, you also want to pair this with a second profession. Now, in this case, we don't have enchanting like we did in Dragonflight. Like, we still have enchanting, of course, but we don't have those lootable materials. If you played Dragonflight, we were able to loot epic, rare, and green objects that only enchanters could loot, and they could then disenchant. Those are no longer here in the War Within. Now, on the other hand, we have Inscription, and from Inscription you can start using, or you can start learning how to gather Dark Moon cards from various mobs in the War Within. This is both open world mobs, dungeon mobs, and even delves mobs. So you really want to pair something like tailoring, where you're farming in the open world, with Inscription. And for Inscription, this right here is the build you want to go for when it comes to looting Dark Moon cards from mobs in the open world. Now, hopping over to my Inscription character on the War Within on the beta, I just want to show you guys why this is the build you want to go for as well. And for the main build, like going over to Inscription right here, you don't have to put any points into archival editions to unlock the subspec. You just have to learn the specialization, and then you can instantly learn this sub-specialization. And upon learning this, or putting in, I think this is 10, 20 and 30 points, you can then unlock additional subspecs for every 10 points spent. Now, that's kind of where the magic comes in, because upon putting 15 knowledge points into Darkmoon Sigil Radiance, for example, you will then increase your ability to find Darkmoon cards by 50%. And then going over here, you will have the same one, increase your ability to find Dark Moon cards by another 50%, over here as well another 50%, and over here another 50%. So over here, you're literally just building this out to be able to find Dark Moon cards way more often, and that is why you are going for this build right here, increasing your Dark Moon card finds by 200%. And once again, scribes can find Dark Moon cards in the open world, dungeons, and delves tested and confirmed so far on the beta, and for that reason, you want to pair Tailoring plus Inscription. When you're farming, let's just say you're farming delves for cloth, for example, with Tailoring, you will then be able to find Dark Moon cards as well, and by having this build, you will find more Dark Moon cards. Now, that's just for solo farming, but imagine the group farming viability here. If you're doing a 5-man cloth farm, or a 2x4 cloth farm as well, for those of you who are really advanced for gold farming, you know what 2x4 means, where you have 2 groups of 4 farming together because you share loot. You will kill so many mobs, and you will loot so much cloth that this right here will give you so much gold by itself, and then you have the Dark Moon cards on top that can also drop from those mobs. So the more mobs you kill, the more Dark Moon cards you get. Now I kind of want to show you guys this early, because this lets you start setting up your farming characters way before the War Within comes out, and at this point you have about 5.5 weeks, 5.5 to 6 weeks to set up your farming character before the new expansion comes out. So next up we have another build as well, which first of all you want to have Inscription on this one as well, but instead of having Tailoring, you're going to have Skinning. Now for the exact build you want to use for Skinning, I can't really tell you, because it's going to be highly based on, well, different builds you can have for Skinning. You can either use this build shown right here to increase your overall skill. On the left you will get more skill for leather, and on the right you will get more skill for scales instead of leather, right? And more skill means a higher quality of the material you're going for. Now on the other hand, you can go for luring for group farming, because the lures will then get reduced cooldowns whenever you skin a different mob. So for this character, you just want to pick a skinning build, go with that, and pair skinning with Inscription, because once again you can find Dark Moon cards, and they don't just drop from humanoids, they drop from any mob in the open world, dungeons and delves. Basically any Cassalgar mobs or the War Within mobs can drop these Dark Moon cards, at least as of right now, and that way you are just increasing the amount of gold and the profit you're making from the farms that you're already doing. And from skinning you can either focus on the quality of leather you're farming, quality of scales you're farming. You can also go for example, there's different creature type materials, like there's bee type of materials, you have bones, and yeah, you can focus on those, kind of the rare species, uncommon materials from those. Or you can focus on luring, where you can learn to bait mobs and infuse your bait with certain materials to focus on crystalline powder, for example, and stuff like that. So skinning plus Inscription is looking really good. Tailoring plus Inscription is also looking really good right here. That's going to be another one. And to summarize this really quickly, character number 1, Herbalism plus Mining. Character number 2, Tailoring plus Inscription, and character number 3, Skinning plus Inscription. Those are kind of the 3 different farming characters you want to set up for the War Within, and when it comes to a supplementary character to all of that, you also want to have an enchanter with the designated disenchanter skill tree, which will then give you more materials from disenchanting. Whenever you're doing a group farm, for example, for skinning or tailoring, you will sometimes, well, not just sometimes, but very often loot green BOEs, which you can then send to your designated disenchanter and loot even more greens from that disenchant. Going back to my enchanting character here on the beta, really quick, just to show you an example of that, you have 4 different skill trees right here. One of them is called a designated disenchanter, and the main skill tree here will then give you plus skill whenever you're disenchanting, and the more points you put in here, the more skill you will get whenever you are disenchanting, eventually getting plus 20 at the final tree as a bonus. And then on your designated disenchanter where you're sending materials, you really want to focus on the green part, and maybe even the blue, but you will very rarely send BOE epics to be disenchanted. If you have a main, that can be good to have an epic disenchanting on the main, because you'll be running mythic pluses and raids all the time, and then when you swap out the gear you can disenchant them for crystals. But when it comes to farming on one character and sending those greens to a different character, you want that disenchanter to be 30 points here, and then 30 points here, and then 30 points here, so like 90 points in total. And over here you have the uncommon utilitarian, which just once again gives you more skill when disenchanting green items, aka uncommon items. In addition to that, when you put in 20 points, you will learn to have a chance to create more storm dust when disenchanting uncommon equipment. And over here, when you max it out 10 points after, your chances of creating additional storm dust when disenchanting uncommon equipment are increased even further, so you just get way more storm dust. And eventually, the only way to make profit from disenchanting green items will be to max this out. And the skill when disenchanting really matters, because we can now get quality 1, quality 2, and quality 3 storm dust. The more skill you have, the higher quality material you will get when disenchanting. So, one quick last summary on characters you want to prep for the War Within. Number 1, Herbalism plus Mining. Number 2, Tailoring plus Inscription. Number 3, Skinning plus Inscription. And number 4, an Enchanting character. Whatever profession you go with Enchanting is definitely up to you. I would recommend something like Alchemy or Tailoring. Well, you already have Tailoring, so Alchemy. Plus maybe, yeah, Tailoring and Alchemy for passive gold making. Warbands. The faction-specific things from Dragonflight kind of goes out the window, and when you get renown in your main character, you will have those renown levels on your alt from that warband, so you don't have to have 10 different characters do weeklies on all of them to get that renown, to get those skill points or knowledge points, and you don't have to pair, for example, Enchanting plus Tailoring, because they gave you extra knowledge points from a certain renown, like we did in Dragonflight. We had whole spreadsheet about exactly which professions to plan out based on where you got your renown. So you could get 2 renowns from the same faction, and therefore you wanted to have those specific ones. Like for example, if Ishkaran Fishing or Ishkaran faction gave you both Tailoring plus Enchanting knowledge at renown 12, you wanted to have both Tailoring and Enchanting to double dip on that renown. Now when renown is account wide, that is not really anymore a problem. Now on the other hand, we still have faction and racial bonuses that will help you out when you're doing professions. So let's talk about those. For the Alliance, these are the bonuses you have access to. So for Dark Iron Dwarves, you get plus 5 skill in blacksmithing, as well as plus 10% crafting speed for blacksmithing as well, helping you make more crafts. So if you are crafting 1000 of a certain item, you can basically craft 100 extra of them in the same time that a non-Dark Iron Dwarf would be crafting that time. Like, yeah, you will just help yourself making more gold per hour if you are absolutely mass producing. Now for Cultirians, you get plus 2 skill in all professions. For Draenei, you get plus 5 skill in Jewelcrafting, Gnomes get plus 5 skill in Engineering, and Lightforged Draenei get plus 5 skill in Blacksmithing, plus they can summon a Forge. Now, it's kind of weird to me why Alliance we have 2 different races that get blacksmithing bonuses, but we're lacking so many other professions. Like, where's Tailoring, where's Alchemy, but we have 2 blacksmiths. Either way, Worgans also get plus 5 skill in skinning, and they also get plus 25% deftness in skinning, basically increase the gathering speed or increase skinning speed. So if you have a skinning character, you really want that to be a Worgan. So, going over to the Horde, Blood Elves get plus 5 skill in Enchanting, Taurens get plus 5 skill in Herbalism, and also plus 25% deftness, aka gathering speed for Herbalism too. Nightborn get plus 5 skill in Inscription, Goblins get plus 5 skill in Alchemy, and also they get vendor discounts. High Mountain Tauren get plus 5 skill in Mining, and plus 25% deftness in Mining too, which is once again gathering speed for mining. Now, we have 2 neutral races, which are right here. Pandarians get plus 5 skill in cooking, and Drakthir get plus 2% perception in all professions. Now, perception doesn't really apply to crafting, so this is gathering professions. Herbalism, mining, skinning, right, those professions, you will get plus 2% perception. Now, let's get over to our spreadsheet here for the War Within and talk about where my spreadsheet is a little bit different from Penguin's spreadsheet and how I would personally combine, not just how I would, but how I have already started pairing up my professions on my character and why I'm doing it. Alright, so opening up my spreadsheet over here, we can see I've made a really simple layout of all of the professional bonuses for every single race that I just talked about. So we have them all in a very easy spreadsheet. Now, based on that, we get their best profession or their ideal professions right here. So once again, blacksmithing right here because you get bonuses, right? So all of the best professions are tied to the bonuses you get for that profession. Now, here's kind of where my setup differences from the video that I referenced early in this video, where Penguin would put on, for example, tailoring with blacksmithing here to get passive gold. Now, if you don't know, I have made a tailoring goldmaking guide video here on YouTube on what passive gold is from tailoring, but basically you can make dusk weave and dawn weave on cooldown, and because they have a cooldown attached to them, that will give them more profit. We saw this in Dragonflight with the Azure weave and chrono weave, right, which gave you profit on a steady, pretty much daily basis, and the same thing comes in the War Within as well, where you can make more gold on a passive basis when items or crafted items have a cooldown attached to them. So because their best profession is blacksmithing, that leaves one spot open, and where Penguin would put in tailoring to get more passive gold, I will put in something like enchanting, and the reason is I am playing only one faction. At least every single server I'm playing only one faction. So for example on Terracore I'm playing Alliance, on Cassock I'm playing on the Horde. Now instead of only having blacksmiths on the Alliance and enchanters on the Horde, because enchanters get a bonus from Blood Elves, blacksmithing on a Dark Iron Dwarf is going to be the best option. But as an Alliance player, we have no races that have an enchanting bonus. So I'm going to throw enchanting on this character. I could also throw enchanting on, for example, the Draenei, which has a Jewelcrafting bonus as well. So, for example, enchanting over here. Now, in that case, there's no real reason to have multiple enchanters unless you want to have one for disenchanting and one for crafting. Actually, there are a couple of reasons why you want to have multiple, but just to keep it simple, I would, for example, put Alchemy on this one. And that's not going to be a cooldown crafting alchemist, that's going to be a potion crafter alchemist, or a flask crafting alchemist, or just any alchemist really, because once again, on the Alliance side, we don't have access to any alchemists, but on the Horde side we do. And going over to, for example, engineering here, I'm going to have an engineering character. Now, we don't have access to any races with inscription bonuses, so I'm going to put inscription on this one, because once again, we don't have access to anyone with any inscription bonuses on the Alliance side. Now, in this case, I've taken all of the 3 crafting professions from the Horde and put them on the Alliance side, and I would do the same thing on the Horde side, where, for example, Blood Elves, they have enchanting. Now, they don't have, on the Horde side, you don't have any characters or any races that have any blacksmithing bonuses, for example, so I would do blacksmithing plus enchanting on the Horde side right here. And for inscription, they also don't have anyone who has any jewel crafting, for example, so we do jewel crafting plus inscription on the Horde side right here. Okay, so why am I doing this instead of, for example, putting on tailoring on my blacksmithing character or tailoring on my jewel crafting character for that passive gold making option? The reason is that I really want to have tailoring plus alchemy on the same character. That makes it very easy for me to have certain alts that are only there to make cooldown crafts, and for example, on the Alliance, I would really want that to be a Cultirian, because we don't have any tailoring bonuses on neither the Horde or the Alliance, and the only alchemy bonus is on the Horde. Now that being said, Cultirians get 2 skills in all professions, so me, I am making pretty much all of my cooldown crafting characters Cooliterans, because they get +2 skill in both Tailoring and Alchemy, and that way they will benefit for cooldown crafting, both for Tailoring and for Alchemy. And the reason why I want to set this up is that I want to get as much skill as I can, as early as I can, because the real profits will be from early in the expansion. So early in the expansion is where this skill point will really matter, and will matter the most. So to be able to guarantee, for example, quality 2 of Dawnweave and Duskweave, and even getting closer to quality 3 as soon as possible. And on the Horde side, I would want all of my Tailoring plus Alchemy characters, my cooldown crafters, they would all be Goblin. Now that's going to be both for the vendor discount and definitely the 5 skill in Alchemy. It's going to be the only race on the Horde that directly benefits a cooldown crafting character. That Alchemy skill is absolutely insane, and the vendor discount is really nice overall as well. So every single one of my Tailoring plus Alchemy characters for cooldown crafting on the Horde side, they're going to be Goblins. So Goblins on the Horde, Tailoring plus Alchemy, and Coolterans on the Alliance for Tailoring plus Alchemy, every single one of them. And right now, using the War Within pre-patch plus the Mr. Pandaria remix, you can level up alts so quickly. You can make a gold-making army like this. It takes you 1 to 2 hours to level up a character, all the way from nothing to be max level, and then you just get the professions. You don't even have to skill them up right now, just wait for the War Within, and then just get the War Within, Cassalgar Tailoring, and Cassalgar Alchemy, and start your gold making army. It is that easy. Now, just to touch on farming characters really fast as well, for example on the Alliance side we have access to Worgens for skinning, and if you haven't seen my video yet on setting up the perfect farming character, there is a significant reason why you want to have Inscription plus skinning, and that is the ability to loot Darkmoon cards. Now, Darkmoon cards will be lootable from pretty much any mob in Cassalgar in the War Within, especially as of right now on the beta. That is the information we have, and I've been testing this myself. It drops from both the open world, dungeons, and even delves, so you can loot cards. And if they drop from beasts, and every single beast, well, you can double dip. You can both skin plus loot cards from those mobs, and you obviously want your skinning character to be a Worgen because they have +5 skill, giving you higher quality leather, and they also have increased skinning speed, which if you're doing group farms, 5-man or 2x4, that's going to be really important. You could also use a Darkmoon Firewater to negate that and have that faster skinning speed anyway, but being a Worgen, it's just going to be easy. And if you're starting this one right now anyway, you're leveling with the Mr. Pandaria remix and the War Within pre-patch, just make it a Worgen. Now on the Horde side, we have Herbalism plus Mining, and over here you have to make a choice between Tauren or High Mountain Tauren based on which profession you directly want to benefit from the most. If you want to focus on Herbalism, you want to have Herbalism plus Mining on your Tauren character. Now if you want to focus more on Mining, you want to have Mining plus Herbalism on your High Mountain Tauren. So we put in Herbalism right here. So as you can see, the best profession for Tauren is going to be Herbalism, and the best secondary, or my preferred secondary, is Mining. For a High Mountain Tauren, on the other hand, the best one is Mining, and my preferred one is going to be Herbalism, right there. Now obviously I'm not gonna have Herbalism plus Mining on 2 characters, there's no real point there, so I'm going to pick one of them, and in my experience Herbalism is usually more beneficial than Mining anyway. Now you could also make an argument for both the Horde and the Alliance, definitely on the Alliance side because we don't really have any Herbalism or Mining characters, except for Coolterans for +2 skill in both Herbalism and Mining. You can make a real argument for a Drac Theory for that +2% perception, and that Drac Theory you can make an argument for both skinning, Herbalism, or Mining. Now for me, I'm going to make the argument directly in favor of Herbalism plus Mining, because in this one you're double dipping. You're getting +2 perception in 2 gathering professions that directly cooperate with each other. When you're doing a mining lap, you will find some herbs, and vice versa, when you're doing a herbalism lap, you will find some mining nodes as well. So Drac Theors are actually pretty good gatherers. Either way, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helped clear out what I'm thinking about when I'm talking about profession combinations and the approach that I'm going with here. Instead of just stacking, like when for example blacksmithing is the best profession, instead of slapping tailoring on there, I am slapping a second crafting profession that we don't have any benefits for. So I would never put Jewelcrafting over here, for example. Like, I would never have Blacksmithing plus Jewelcrafting on my Dark Iron Dwarf, because we can have Jewelcrafting on our Draenei instead. But I'm going to pick one of the professions from the Horde side that Alliance don't have any benefits for, which could be Alchemy, it could be Inscription, or Enchanting. Any of those three would be my preferred secondary profession for those, and then we're stacking Tailoring plus Alchemy on the one race where it makes the most sense for both factions, which is Kultirans for the Alliance and Goblins for the Horde. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful, useful, informative in any way, shape or form, please leave a like down below, and let me know in the comments if there's anything I can improve on, or what you want the next video to be about. I have just gotten back into the War Within. We're doing a profession overview video series talking about every single profession, and everything you can do right now to prepare, which we're talking about professions, deep diving, teaching you everything about the professions. We're now talking about profession combinations, and in yesterday's video I talked about farming characters, like which professions you wanted to stack together to make the best farming character. Either way, if you enjoyed the video, once again, leave a like down below, and if you want to have access to more gold making stuff, check out my War Within Goldmaking Guide. I will put all of my efforts into this guide. I have made it's 88 pages so far, and that's the first edition, based on the beta. We're probably going to find way more information before the release, and you will get access to all of the updates sent to you for free. You will also get early access to videos that includes Goldfarms when the War Within comes out, gold making methods, investments. You will get early access to pretty much all of them. So I am really doing whatever I can to help you make as much gold as humanly possible. Either way, thank you for watching, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you again in the next video very soon. Peace.